Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto x Supergirl x Batgirl Justice League. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by blassreitter and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Prologue. Shadowy places where 9 large shadows stands at the edge of the circle of light. These shadows stepped one by one into light where 3 figures await them. The first that stepped into the light was a large brown raccoon, his yellow eyes that borders on gold with a black star, stared at the 3 figures in front of him, and his one tail swept behind him. He spoke, giving his name to the gathered beings around him. Next was the cat-like creature with her 2 tails that purred when one of the figures stroked her fur. One by one the shadowy figures stepped in the light until the last an orange fox with 9 tails towered over them. The fox extended his paw to one of the figures that was male and the youngest of them all. Fists connected with each other. That show of comradeship earned the two a smile from a beautiful woman with bunny ears, horns that extended out of her long white hair that reaches the floor. Her moonlit pale skin glowed at dim light, while her large beautiful pale eyes fluttered open, taking in all the beings that stands around her with tenderness in her eyes. "You've come far, hero," she said in a light chimney voice. "A great evil awaits you when you wake up. This evil will not stop until he have achieved his goal." The next person said whom resemblances the woman next to him a great deal, only he's male with short spiky crimson hair, metallic purple ringed eyes that stared deep in the young man's soul. "Your destiny is bringing peace to the world. How can I defeat him? He's so much stronger than I am. My friends were slaughtered in front of my eyes, my only remaining family died, protecting me. I don't have the powers to defeat Uchiha Madara." The young man with jaw-length spiky golden hair and cerulean sky blue eyes firming fixed on the pair in front of him, cried out hopelessly. The young man sunk to his knees as tears flowed down his cheeks. "All is not lost, young hero. They're always with you." The woman spoke on a shooting voice as she kneeled in front of him. Her index finger moved to his chin to lift his face up. "They're here," she hit his forehead gently with her finger before moving to where his heart is. And here as she spoke she spread her fingers and placed her whole hand on his chest. "But they are always with you as long if you remembers them, keeping them in your heart, the memories that you made with them, and that, my young hero, will fuel your soul that will gain you strength." The young man's tears slowly disappeared when slowly a small smile formed on his face. "Thank you." The pair in front of him smiled fondly at him and the 9 beings around them howled. He felt lighter, stronger and hope grew inside him. He is ready for the final confrontation with Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara stands at the top on a mountain of core. These were the unfortunately shinobi that dares to challenge him. These fools knew that mere humans could not defeat him. He had challenged all odds, reached the peak of his powers, challenged the Shinigami, the dead god in his own realm, and triumphed. And now he has returned where he gathered a group of high-classed shinobi to help him to gather the embodiments of chakra to claim for his own. His plans did go so far good until the Jinchuriki of the 9 tails blocked him on each turn. That insolent brat had gathered an army together with the 1-tailed Jinchuriki and the 8 tails. But nonetheless, he defeated them all. Uchiha Madara had defeated the 2 Jinchuriki easily until the 9 tails did go full Biju mode that gave him the thrill of a fight. The 2 fought, landscapes changed by the powerful clashes between titans. Trees uprooted, lakes vaporized and mountains crumbles to dust. Now he waits, he had kicked the 9 tails jailer into a mountain and he knows that this will be their last clash. The final battle between them, but he was thrilled, even if he would lose, this world is done for. For miles and miles to see there was no single life left and he knew they were the last of their kind. A loud explosion from the mountain where he had kicked in the jailer of the last embodiment of chakra caught his attention and a golden blur made his way towards him and halted in front of him. Dust surrounded him, obscured the view of his opponent. "Are you ready, Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto? Are you ready to join your friends and family in the afterlife?" The predecessor of the Uchiha clan goaded the last shinobi of his people. A sudden wind blew the dust away, revealing Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto in all his glory. No longer was he the golden-haired, spiky blonde boy, as his hair was as white as snow, 2 horns stuck out of his head. Gone were the whisker marks, and a single eye adorned his forehead, his mystical Rin Sharingan with 9 Tomo. His eyes were pale like the Byakugan, his veins were clearly seen, and his eyebrows were cut, giving him a noble look. Gone were the ridiculous orange-black cloth that he always wore, but now instead, he wears a full-bodied black garment with black pants, armguards and boots, over which he wore a flowing white robe with 6 Magatama markings across his chest and on his back in 3 rows, the 9 Magatama. What happened to you?" Uchiha Madara shouted, eyes bulged out when he felt the crushing amount of chakra leaking out of the young man. "This isn't the boy that I had fought a moment ago. This just can't be. No one could surpass me, and yet he did." "A lot," came the smooth reply of the changed Naruto. Madara blinked a few times with his eyes when he suddenly blew out in full laughter. His shoulders shook, his eyes gained a hungry glance as he bends over. Yes. Yes, finally a fight where I can use all my powers. I can show you the true horror of the Uchiha clan. Prepare yourselves, Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. Saying that, he shot off the ground in high speed to his opponent. His hands made the necessary hand seals for one of his jutsu. Kaiten. Gokumikyaku. He brought his fist to his lips and blew. A massive fireball erupted from his lungs, easily covering a wide range. Naruto stood there waiting for the right moment, his hands blurred in motion, doing the necessary hand seals. Suiten. Sujin Heki. When he finished his last seal, a wall of water erupted around him, intercepting completely the attack of his opponent. Not long after, the two jutsus clashed against each other, or the two titans blurred to the center and clashed fists and feet against each other. Each using their respective fighting style. Uchiha Madara used his clan's taijutsu that he had perfected in the prime of his youth, while Naruto uses the heavenly gentle fist that he somehow obtained. The fight destroyed more of the already once beautiful nature. Craters appeared. Cracks in the earth core appeared as lava spew out, raining down as smog poisoned the air. Uchiha Madara, you're judged in the name of the gods. For your crime, you will lose your knowledge, your ability to use chakra will be taken from you, and your body will dissolve, and last, but last, not least, your soul will vaporize to nothing. Naruto speeded up, slammed Uchiha Madara into the Ashen earth, and made the necessary hand seals. Madara screamed when he crashed into the earth, temporality paralyzed. You can't do this to me. I'm a god. I've ventured far beyond any human. I've conquered death itself. Nu. Farewell Uchiha Madara, Fujutsu. Kai Shiru. Said the hero, last survivor of the shinobi race. Naruto absorbed the massive chakra reserves. Knowledge and powers of the last member of the Uchiha clan, whose body crumbled back to decay and then dust as his soul vanished. The final battle was done, but a lot was lost. His homeworld was nothing but a wasteland, and he wasn't a human anymore. He doesn't know what happened to him when he was kicked into the mountain, nor does he remember, but he knows that it gave him the power to avenge his fallen comrades, saving future innocence of this madman, and now he will go out, taking a rest until he's needed again. Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto closed his eyes, hiding his cerulean blue eyes as a cocoon formed over his cradled form that vanished from his homeworld. Earth, Atlantic Ocean. A small island in the Atlantic Ocean named the Bermuda Island. A gray, metallic-colored cocoon shimmered to the visual spectrum. The cocoon expanded, then shrunk and expanded again like a heart of a living being. Sometimes the cocoon shone an eerily white light that showed its contents. Slowly roots sprouted out of the cocoon, burying, sinking their roots deep into the island, nourished the being in the cocoon. Years passed in the world since the cocoon appeared, and a tree grew that secured itself around the cocoon, protecting it for any natural environment. The tree grew, reaching high into the sky, causing any paranormal accidents. From boats that glides through the water surface, letting them sink. Airplanes fell out of the sky, crashing in the Atlantic Ocean. Satellites from obscure to uncertain satellite pictures. Through the centuries on Earth, the Bermuda Triangle was a mystery that could not be solved, and people made up rumors about the place and stayed far away. Until now, the cocoon light brightened by the seconds, cracks appeared on its surface that suddenly burst. The cocoon crumbled to dust, revealing a young man of the age of 17 with sun-kissed golden, spiky hair that were jaw-length, that obscured a bit of his cerulean sky-blue eyes, that shone with light that the world haven't seen before. His body was light, with the right amount of muscle and a flat, muscular abdomen that made the women drool at sight. Slowly he rose up from his cradled position and walked out of the tree, au natural. The sun's position high in the blue sky touched the young man with his rays, warming him that caused the young man to smile. With each step that he took, chakra started to gather around his being, creating clothes, and when he had reached the edge of his island, he placed his foot on the water surface, leaned on it before his other foot joined him, he now stood at the water surface. One step, another step, and the process repeated until he started to sprint that soon changed in full speed. The world, or should I say Earth, have gained a new hero. A hero that would change the world. That hero's name is Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. Enemies beware. Smallville and Vigilantes. Metropolis, Kansas. A young man with spiky blonde golden hair walked through the busy streets of Metropolis. Cerulean sky blue eyes flitted from left to right to see the new high-tech technology that a new company had brought out. Konoha Incorporated is the blood new company that has vested themselves in the heart of Metropolis and rivals the current highest and influenced company in Metropolis, LexCorp, that's owned by Lex Luthor, Metropolis Golden Child. The young man in question is our own Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, but he had it shorted to Namikaze Naruto for business believes. Naruto appeared 3 years ago here in Metropolis after a year of investigating in the world's current economy, technology and more. He, of course, had heard about the strange anomaly that had happened through the centuries, including his own. Spaceships appeared, bringing aliens in our atmosphere that hides in plain view, superheroes and villains appeared with high-advantage technologies or superpowers that combat each other in narrow, dark alleys, or fighting in plain view by keeping hostages, robbing a bank or causing mass destruction, while the heroes do the opposites by freeing hostages, stopping robberies and mass destruction. During his travels, he invented new security systems for safer environments. For hospitals he created new alarm system that pinpoint the exact position of wounded civilians, giving data beforehand of the situation, and high-tech technology for patients for a much better care. He had started inventing hospital equipment in honor for his grandmother, Tsunade Senju, that was a prodigy. Of course it isn't only technology, as he uses his own knowledge creating a much healthier medicines, but none too close of what he uses for his own. The young prodigy thought that mankind of Earth weren't ready yet for a much higher advantage technology and kept those for himself, not that he uses them, thanks to his knowledge of Fuinjutsu. Konoha Incorporated is the father company, and he had also a smaller company called Toad Sage Incorporated that brought out an anime, manga and games about his adventures, but modified, of course, and a small department devoted to Icha Paradise series in honor for his godfather, Jiraiya of the Sannin, first Toad Sage. Small is a large word if you talk about the infamous or famous orange books, it's about who you asks, because male obvious drool at the graphic explanation / storyline, while the ladies have a more different opinion that lies with their mood swings and point of view. Well, not my problem, as it brings in a nice cash, and it brings me sometimes a good laugh if you notice some of fans reading the orange books in bright daylight. Namikaze Naruto stepped up the stairs that lead him to the entrance of Konoha Incorporated and the doors slid open. "Welcome back, sir." A young woman welcomed her employer behind the desk. Naruto nodded, smiled at her warmly, causing her to blush lightly. "Thank you, Lana. Any appointments today?" "Yes sir, today you've an appointment with one Mr. Wayne of Wayne Enterprises for a contract of partnership." Lana Lang replied with a smile when she noticed the smile of her employer. She had never thought that someone so young as him could run such a company. He wasn't older than 18, and already he and his company were one of the most influenced companies in Metropolis, and she had heard that he had a few companies in Japan, China and France. "Thank you, Lana, that was all." She nodded before returning back to her tasks at hand. Her employer reached the lifts and pushed the button. A moment later the doors slid open and he stepped inside. "Lana," said girl looked up. "If Mr. Wayne is the last one of today's appointment and we're done, then you might take the day off because you deserves that for your efforts." The doors slid close with a ping as Lana smiled brightly before she turned back to her tasks. Naruto arrived at the ground floor and stepped out of the elevator into the gallery that displays different kind of Asian arts before he entered his office. His office is comfortable with a few decorations, and at one wall is a picture with familiar face of friends that he had made in his time in the elemental nations. They wear the traditional kimono while eating dango, chips or anything eligible, while in the background the Hokage mountain towered over them with firework and light in the night. A lone tear made his way down his cheek before he wiped it away. He took seat behind his desk and worked through paperwork. "I've not become Hokage, and still I get loads of paperwork on my desk." Naruto thought with a wry grin before his hand moved under his desk and touched a seal that locked the office and seals any sound that might come out. "Alright, ready for the rise of the clones." Cage Bunshin. Not a second too late he thought that, and poofs could be heard when clones of him appeared in the office. Soon they all moved to the stacks of paperwork and worked through it. General Hardcastle asks for a new medical equipment because the previous one came in enemy's hands when the carrier fell in battle. Well, if people weren't that stupid to cause a war and get hurt in said war, then they wouldn't need such a thing. "But I'm obligated to sell this to the army for the betterment of the people. This saves people just what you want's not that they can copy or made a biological weapon from it." He placed that order on a stack for acknowledged and moved on. A lot of requests were made and some were very funny, like Lex Luthor that asks for a partnership, knowing full well that he wouldn't join a criminal mastermind and certainly not one that have each time Superman on his roof. After a few hours he had worked through most of them and stared at a sheet that showed a house, maybe a small mansion is a better word, in Smallville, Kansas. The environment that were described on the sheet seems nice, with a forest, rivers and lakes, a small village surrounded by farms. Perfect. "Mr. Namikaze, a Mr. Wayne has arrived, should I send him to you?" The voice of Lana made him looks up from his sheet of his future house as he pushed down the button. "Send him in and enjoy your day, Lana." "Okay sir, I send him in and thank you." Lana replied with a smile on her face as she mentioned Mr. Wayne to take the elevator. Mr. Wayne smiled charmingly at Lana before he entered the elevator and was on his way to meet Mr. Namikaze. Naruto made the clones disappear and closed his eyes for a moment to place the new memories for later review. His hand waved over the view, lifting up the lock and privacy barrier just in time when he heard a knock. 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 "Enter," Naruto called and the door swept open and an imposed figure entered the office with a bit of Playboy stand. "Hello Mr. Wayne, welcome to Konoha Incorporated. Please take a seat." "Hello to you as well, Mr. Namikaze, and thank you for my acceptance of this appointment," Mr. Wayne said, sticking out his hand for a handshake that Naruto shook with pleasure before he took seat. "Mr. Wayne, it came to my attention that you want to create a partnership between Konoha Incorporated and Wayne Enterprises. As you know, there are 3 companies that delivers techs, healthcare and aerospace, and one of them your rival with is LexCorp. I, myself, are not a big fan of LexCorp due to the unsafely use of products that he invents." Wayne nodded and already liked the way he spoke. "You must know, Mr. Wayne, that Mr. Luther had tried to forge a partnership between Konoha Incorporated and LexCorp that I, of course, declined. I expect a hard time due to the disagreement, as I suspect that Mr. Luther will not accept this." Wayne listened intently and leaned a bit forward, one hand was hidden under the table, and he planted a listening device for later use as the Batman. "Mr. Namikaze, may I ask as why you did decline the partnership between Konoha Incorporated and LexCorp besides the unsafely use of his tests?" Naruto laughed and pushed a button. "Daphne, honey, can you deliver us some refreshment and cookies, thank you." He took a more comfortable position before he leaned a bit forward. "I don't know if you know the rumors about a few shady deals of Mr. Luther, but I did some background check on said person and what it did contain made me not a happy man, I assure you. That idiot of LexCorp has some petty grudge with the Man of Steel and uses his fortune to hire villains for testing out his newest toy. I don't want or need a partnership with someone that shines bad light on my company, don't you think so?" Before Wayne could answer, a knock was heard and the door swung open and a young lady entered the office with a tray in hand. She was really pretty, blonde, golden stylish hair, sapphire blue eyes and a smile to die for. A light figure with well filled out in the right place that made Wayne to look twice at her. "Ah, hello dear, thank you." Naruto thanked her when she placed the tray. Wayne nodded when he looked after her when she left a pair of men. "A real eye-catcher, isn't she?" "Yes, she is." Wayne agreed. That caused Naruto to laugh. "Back a topic, Mr. Namikaze, so if I follows your explanation about not going into the same ship as LexCorp do rumors, then I believes that you agreed to accept my proposing. I'm sure that you already did the necessary background on my person and company." "I did," acknowledged Naruto while he took a sip from his glass of wine. He whirled the wine in his mouth before gulping. "What you did and how you've built up your company shows me that we both will benefit from each other." Wayne nodded and took a sip of his wine. "Yes, we will, this partnership will launch us into the new age of mankind. Thank you." "No thank you Mr. Wayne, but please call me Naruto. We're after all partners now." Wayne smiled, gripped his partner's hand and shook it firmly. His eyes glanced for a second at the paper of Naruto's future apartment in Smallville, Kansas. "Then please, call me Bruce." The 2 new partners stared at each other before releasing each hands, and Bruce turned to leave the office. "Out of view," he smiled. "Infiltration successful." Smallville, Kansas. A week has passed and Naruto found himself in his new apartment at the edge of Smallville. He had left a clone behind to do his business at Konoha Incorporated while he worked at his new residence. At the moment his clones were working at the security of his estate by placing seals all around the place and security systems. The garden itself becomes something out of a painting or dream world as the view is breathtaking while he lay down in his bed, fast asleep until sun rays seeped through the window, searching for his target that lay there down, unknown about the unsuspected attack. Slowly it crept up his head, passes his lips, nose and then rested on his eyelids. The clone outside smirked, holding a mirror in hand. "Ugh, sunlight." The blonde thought as the rays of the sun rested on his heavy eyelids. It felt warm and gave uncomfortable feeling. Slowly his eyes fluttered open, immediately he closed his eyes when the rays hit his cerulean, sky blue eyes. He tried again, slowly his eyes fluttered open, turning his head to block the light when to his surprise the light followed him. Immediately he knew the cause of his wake up when he caught the glimpse of one of his clones poof out of existence. Cursed clones. With a groan he rolled out of bed and made his way towards the bathroom. Blasted clones don't know anything about a good night rest. He cursed while he stumbled into the bathroom, opened the shower and tuned the water to the right temperature and then removed his nightwear. He waited a few minutes before entering the shower for a good wake-up call and sighed blissful. He then did his morning ritual by washing and soaping his well-toned body before washing all out before leaving the shower, closed the tap and dried his body. His thoughts ventured down to his old planet where the air were not tainted with smog, nature everywhere where everything was simple for him. Naruto discovered that the gravity here is far lighter than on his home planet and he had a whole year to adapt himself to it, plus the suddenly power increase that gained after his hibernation isn't small. He dried his hair and pulled on some casual clothes before stepping out of the bathroom and descended towards the kitchen for a toast and milk. The blonde took a seat at the table and his eyes caught an article in the newspaper. Konoha Incorporated and Wayne Enterprise forms a partnership. By Lois Lane. Yesterday late afternoon I spoke to Mr. Wayne, owner of Wayne Enterprise, that graced me with his presence and news about the new partnership between Metropolis' newest company, Konoha Incorporated and Wayne Enterprise. The two CEO of respective companies cemented their partnership of said companies with new technologies for healthcare, as they find important that their fellow humans deserves the best care. We'd all know that Wayne Enterprise and rival company, LexCorp, tried to gain the attention of Konoha Incorporated. Both companies are specialized in healthcare, technologies and aerospace, and now that the two influenced companies has banded together, we can expect a brighter future for mankind. This was Lois Lane of the Daily Planet. Naruto stood up, closed the newspaper and picked up a cookie mug that is made out of cookies and poured some coffee. He came up with this idea when he wished for some coffee with a cookie until he was hit with the genius idea of combining them, and so he gave birth to Toad Sage mugs that Toad Sage Incorporated sells with flying colors. The Toad Sage mugs were in 3 different sizes, small, medium and large. But the best and secret is that the cookies mugs will not become moist for an hour after pouring. The young CEO has seen a lot of people using his article, mostly drivers or desk workers, much to his amusement. He stepped out of his house, opened his car, a Ford F-150, emerald colored. Not a car that pick up any attention, so perfect for him. He started the engine, activated his security seal and left his estate while playing some music. Luke Bryan. That's my kind of night. 20 minutes later he arrived at Smallville, parked his car and stepped out in order to search for a local Asian restaurant. He likes what he sees here, fresh air, meaning not the smell of smog what you always finds in the big cities. Laughing children that play football in small shops. Naruto was kind of glad for such a small village, meaning that not much people will recognize him immediately and that he would have a respective easy life. The blonde started window shopping, just for amusing, and decided to buy casual clothes that made him easier blend in, so he started to search for a shop that might sell what he was searching for. Strolling down the shops, while smiling at the young women and girls blushed when he passed them and on occasion some fainted when he smiled at them. The sun shone brightly that made his clothes that he wears constrict around muscular form, and he halted for a moment, smiled when he looked up into the clear blue sky, while his hand shielded his eyes from the sun, until he heard a cry for help. His smile vanished as snow in the sun, and he moved swiftly without showing concern on his face while avoiding the populace. At the end of the street he rounded a corner and in his haste, he didn't notice someone else running in the same direction as he thumped. Bonk. After half an hour Kara showed her face down in the kitchen where her Aunt Martha prepared a late breakfast. Martha heard her adopted niece descending the stairs and smiled when she saw Kara. "Good morning Kara, sleep well?" "Morning Ma, yeah it was, after a night fighting bad guys together with Clark," she said in a way of greeting that brought a smile towards Martha's face. Kara pulled a chair and took seat at the table and smiled when Martha offered her a toast with jam. The young girl took a bite and then looked around, Pa working in the field. Martha shook her head. "No, he's visiting the village. He needed some stuff, but I did forget to tell him that we needed new bread and chicken for tonight. Do you want to fly to him and telling him that for tonight?" Kara nodded and finished her food. "Alright Ma, that's all." The older woman smiled, "Yes, that's all dear." The girl, Kara Kenter also known as Supergirl, opened the door and left the house and floated into the air, and in a sonic boom she left the estate. She flew carefully so she won't gain any attention from unknown people and rumors that Supergirl lives in Smallville, Kansas. The flight times were short, so 5 minutes and she landed in an unpopulated area of Smallville and made her way out of the alley after checking if no one has seen her land. Past she moved out of the alley and mingled herself with the populate and started window shopping while keeping an eye for her Uncle Jonathan or Pa as she called him most of the time. While she was touring she noticed a nice emerald car, a Ford F-150 pass her with someone handsome behind the wheel. The car parked not far away from her and her heart skipped a beat when the owner stepped out. A blush spread across her face and to her annoyance, she noticed that more women has noticed him and to her surprise, he ignored them all with on occasion grant them a smile. To Kara's amusement she noticed he did some window shopping too when suddenly his smile vanished as snow in the sun and he started to move swiftly through the crowd. That's when she heard the reason for his change in behavior. Her Supergirl instinct kicked in and she moved through the crowd towards the cry of help and rounded same corner as he thump. Bonk. Thumb. Bonk. Ouch. Came from 2 different people. Kara felt as if she had slammed into someone made out of granite. Her balance was interrupted as she fell backwards when she suddenly halted by an arm that had wrapped around her waist and held her steady. That's when she heard the most beautiful, soothing voice that she had ever heard. "Hey, are you alright, mademoiselle?" Kara closed her eyes on instinct when she slammed into the wall of granite. She felt herself fall backwards and suddenly halted when an arm wrapped around her waist, eyes still hidden from her rescuer. When her rescuer spoke in a gentle, soothing voice, she dared to peek through her eyelashes, and what she saw made her blush instantly. Her eyes noticed the sun-golden, spiky hair that adorned the firm face of the Adonis of that emerald car. His bright, cerulean sky-blue eyes stared into her sapphire-blue eyes, asking her if she was alright. Kara felt clearly the muscles in his arm that were wrapped around her waist and then felt him bringing her closer, and her arm rose up as she placed her hand on his chest, right above his heart. She felt his well-toned chest and the calm heartbeat under her hand. He spoke again, and this time she registered his question. "Hey, are you alright? It was quite a hit, I hope I didn't hurt you too much." He stopped when she placed a finger on his lips, silencing him. Kara smiled at him with an adorned smile that made him slightly blush. I'm alright, thank you for the catch." "No problem, you're welcome." The Adonis replied with a smile before releasing her. She swept some of her hair out of her face. "For what the rush?" Naruto's eyes widened and his head turned immediately to where he heard the cry for help before this small incident. "I've heard a cry for help and I decided to jump in." Kara nodded and smiled at him when she suddenly felt a hand wrap her in his. "You've heard her call, right?" Before she could say anything or do anything she was pulled along down the alley. "Hey, wait. Mustn't we call the police or something?" "No time, maybe we're already too late." Naruto said over his shoulders, pulling her along. Kara tried a few times to free herself from his iron grip that was surprisingly strong, even if she did use some of her super strength that earned her some question marks. She even tried to plant her foot into the ground to halt him, but he just continued down the lane without slowing down. "Whoa, what is he? He's stronger than he looks like. I can't even free myself from his grip, is he a metahuman or alien?" The pair arrived on a square where a lone tree stands in the center. Near the foot of said tree an elderly woman called for help while waving her crutches. Kara paled when she noticed the elderly woman. She's Mrs. Diamonds, an obsessed figure with diamonds and crystals. Mrs. Diamonds have given her pet, Mrs. Tora, a necklace with green kryptonite when that still could be found in Smallville. Kara was lucky that a small amount doesn't influence her much, but too long in close proximity can weaken her or make her go black out. "Ah, help finally came, you two came just in time, I became tired of shouting." The elderly woman, Mrs. Diamonds, shouted, becoming them to move closer. "Come on, don't be shy." Kara paled when the memories of her 3 years here in Smallville returned where Mrs. Diamonds had sensed Tora on her and her friends. She's not afraid of Tora, but the kryptonite, yeah, that's another story. Naruto moved, with each step that he took, a shiver ran down his spine with Kara not far away from him. He forced a smile on his face despite the negative feeling that he felt when he came closer to the old lady. "Hi, what's the problem, ma'am?" Mrs. Diamond's eyes narrowed, glaring at the two blonde young adults. Her eyes rested for a second on Kara that hid herself a bit behind Naruto. For a strange feeling, Kara felt stronger in this young man's presence. A feral grin appeared on Mrs. Diamond's face when she spoke caused Naruto to shiver. "Hello, handsome, finally deciding to grace me with your presence." Naruto stiffened at how Mrs. Diamonds flirted with him. Shivers ran down his spine that Kara felt when she walked into him again. But nonetheless she was scared from the creepy old woman, if not for herself then for the young man. After a few seconds, Naruto found back his wit and coughed. "Please ma'am, no flirting with me. We've come here when we heard your distress call, what's the problem?" Mrs. Diamonds moved in, halting in front of Naruto, glared once again at Kara before moving down her finger along his sculpted well-toned chest. "Don't be so shy, young man, I can give you an experience that you will not soon forget." Naruto stepped back, dragging Kara with him. "Please ma'am, it is serious or else we will leave." He spoke with a calming, serious voice. The elderly woman sighed and her finger pointed at the tree. "My little sweet Tora is stuck into the tree, can you help me, and I reward you?" Naruto and Kara shook their heads, both pale into the face when images floated through their heads. "No, thank you. Saving your cat is all I will do, I don't need a reward." The pair walked closer to the foot of the tree, stopping, Naruto leaned against the trunk, clasped his hands together for the girdle and nodded. Kara waited until the young man was done and placed her foot on his hands to lift herself up into the tree and then rested her feet on his shoulders. Her eyes scanned the treetop until she found the cat that bleated at her. "Come here Tora, come here kitty." Tora swept her claw that Kara avoided. "Stupid cat, next time I will roast you." She reached out again while avoiding his claws when the cat suddenly jumps away, making her to lose balance. "Arg. Are you alright?" Naruto called from below her. Kara moved her head, looked down and smiled. "I'm alright, only that cursed cat won't stop clawing me." "Watch your tongue, brat," shouted Mrs. Diamonds. The two blondes rolled their eyes. Kara felt the negative influence of the kryptonite starting to take effect on her. She started to felt lightheaded while her legs started to shake. Crap. Kara thought while trying to reach to stupid cat, and to her lucky star or not, Tora jumped straight into her hand, causing the kryptonite crystal brushing against her skin. Immediately she felt the effects tenfold. Her strength left her as she plumped down. Luckily for her, a young man caught her in his arms. Before she lost conscious she could mutter, "Cat allergic reaction." Naruto froze for a second when he suddenly lost the weight on his shoulders and saw something blonde plumb down to earth. With reflexes he caught her securing in his arm and held her close to his chest while with the other he caught Tora, demon cat. The blonde female muttered something before she lost conscious, but he understood and immediately he handed over Tora to Mrs. Diamonds. "Here's your cat, Mrs. Diamonds, and no, I don't have your reward." He stepped back a few feet, heaved her up in his arm, her head rested on his chest, while he cradled her in his embrace, bridal style, and walked away without looking back once. For a moment he enjoyed the feeling of the girl in his arms, feeling her snuggling into his chest while she calmly breathes. "Are you alright, Wonder Girl?" the blonde young man said in a teasing voice. Kara's lips formed a smile when her conscience caught the title before she drifted off in a dreamless sleep. Naruto kept walking with the blonde girl cradled in his arms. Passing passengers whom smiled warmly at the pair when they caught the girl's position. Some of them halted to take a good look at them, and Naruto caught a few of the whispering. "Ooh, look at them, so cute." Or "I wish my boyfriend would carry me like that." Or "Those two made me recall the wonderful time I had with Robert." Naruto blushed crimson while he fought hard against it. He couldn't help to hear them with his enchanted hearing. "Come on, there must be a place where we can rest for a moment without people whispering about us. I don't even know who she is." After some walk, he found the entrance to a small park and entered. The park was really small, with a few benches that were occupied by couples or elderly people. He decided to sit at the edge of a small pond where ducks squeaked. And an elderly woman is feeding them with breadcrumbs. Carefully he sunk to the ground and placed a heroine next to him, her head he placed in his lap, waiting for her to wake up. While she slept, Naruto took for the first time a good look at her, and he marveled on the beauty that this girl possesses. Straw blonde hair, an angelic face that looks beautiful no matter which angle, a light, hergless figure with the right proportion in the right spot. He couldn't stop himself as his hand moved to her hair to stroke a few out of her face that caused the girl to smile while she buried her face deeper into his lap. Minutes passed while Kara slept peaceful in Naruto's lap. Naruto glanced at her a few times and found it amusing that she drools in her sleep. He decided to flex his rear muscles a bit by stretching his legs. Don't move, pillow." The girl spoke, with exhaustion clear in her voice. Naruto chuckled, sending waves through his body, causing the girl to bury her head deeper into his lap. "I said, pillow, don't move." This brought a bout of laughter of the blonde male that he immediately regretted when she pushed him down, hard, and then slammed her fist into his chest before cradling his body with hers as she laid down her head on his chest, listening to his content heartbeat. "Damn, she can hit a pack. She really think I'm some kind of pillow that she can smash around." "Ouch," he said with a wry laugh sending waves through his chest. Kara groaned, lifting her head up before she slammed down in annoyance while letting out feral growl like a tigress. "Can't you lie still for a few minutes, pillow? I had a nice dream and now you ruined it." Naruto was so focused on the girl on his chest that he didn't notice the amusing expressions that they gained from people around them. Slowly people cleared the park for different reasons, might be time for lunch or an upcoming storm. As that dream contained a certain young male with sun-kissed hair, cerulean blue eyes that momentary is used as your personal pillow. Pillow spoke not far from where she had laid down her head that caused waves rumbles through her pillow, confusing her in the process. Kara nodded, eyes still closed, hiding her sapphire eyes. "Yep, that's the one, he caught me when I tried to save. Wait a minute, pillows can't talk at all." Her eyes fluttered open, pupils wide in shock. She lifted her head slightly off her pillow to take a good look at where she had laid her head down. Eyes traveled up that met cerulean blue eyes that sparkled with amusement. Her face turned crimson, her strength left her as she froze, and her mind couldn't process the thoughts. Her pillow, that's in reality the blonde young man that had helped her to save a cursed cat, smiled down at her and his lips moved. Her mind barely registered what he said. "Did you sleep well, Wonder Girl? Saving a demon cat is a terrible exhausting job to do." Silence reigned over the pair. Kara was frozen, her mind numb. Her lips moved like a goldfish, open, close before her mind rebooted, processed everything and eventually blacked out again. Naruto watched her eyes rolling back up before her eyelids fell and she slumped back on his chest, chuckled once again. "Oh well, that did go pretty good." Gotham, Batcave. Somewhere in Gotham in a dark cave, high-pitched shrieks were heard that belonged to the wild bats that live here. A hidden door slid open and a tall, broad man entered the cave, walked up and parked himself behind his desk, where 5 large screens flickered on. One screen displayed the news about the partnership between Konoha Incorporated and Wayne Enterprise, others displayed the many security cameras through the cave. His hand reached out, pushed a button down. Begin. His eyes narrowed, his lips tinned when he watched the performance of his protege, Robin, on the screen. Robin ran over the small edges of the houses, avoiding Batgirl's batarangs that were soon be followed by smoke bombs that burst at contact, creating a smokescreen, obscuring his view. Robin halted, his eyes narrowed, one hand moved to his pocket, picking up a small stick. His thumb pushed a button that made the stick larger that he now held in two hands. A shadow moved through the smokescreen and a foot connects with his staff. Robin slipped a bit back, rolled on his side to avoid a new attack, this time to his head. Soon the two protege of the Dark Knight moved through the training field. "Come on, Batgirl, is that all what you have?" taunted Robin, avoiding kicks that blurred around him and then a sudden jab to his cheek that he barely avoided, leaving an ugly brush behind. Batgirl smirked, "Less talk, boy wonder." Batgirl speeded up. She was now a whirlwind of motions with her kicks and punches. Robin moved his staff to interrupt a high kick from Batgirl that made her smirk at him. Robin gulped when he noticed the smirk on his co-bat. Her leg connected with his staff, pushed off that made her airborne for a few seconds, and with a devastating dropkick she planted Robin, face first into the hard floor of the Batcave. 1-0 for Batgirl. She shouted in glee before crouching down to Robin to check on him. "Are you alright, Robin?" Robin groaned, shook his head from the cobweb, and pushed himself up from the hard floor. "Ugh, you kick hard, girl. Next time it's you that will lay here and not me." "Sure, boy wonder." Batgirl said in a mocking tone, petting him on the head when a new voice joined them that sounded a bit rough. "Well done, Robin, Batgirl. Your reflexes are fine, Robin, but you still relies too much on your eyes. Batgirl, you move fast and your attack packs a punch, but you play too much. It's in and out, no delay. No taunting, just be done, both of you." The Dark Knight spoke from out of the shadows. "Tonight, we'll move out to Mr. Namika's. My spy has planted a bat device in Konoha Incorporated and then we'll have a nice conversation with him. For now, you might do your own thing, but tonight be prepared." "So, a trip to the CEO of Konoha Incorporated, wonderful," Robin said, throwing fists out to let some energy escape. Batgirl nodded, turning her head to the large screen that showed the last picture of Mr. Wayne, and Mr. Namika's shook hands. It seems so. Kara had woken up. Eyes slowly fluttered open, revealing beautiful sapphire eyes that shone with life. Slowly she shook her head to remove the dizziness from her being. Naruto noticed her waking up, deciding to help her back up in a sitting position while offering his shoulder to lean to that she took graceful. She placed her head on his shoulder while looking out over the pond. Soon the two found themselves in a conversation about what had happened and Kara blushed a few times when Naruto described how he had carried her away from the cat through the village until they arrived here. "Thanks, Naruto, if it wasn't for you saving me from that cat, then maybe I would have found myself in a hospital." Naruto shook his. A smile worked up on his face and with a soft, warm voice he spoke. "Saving pretty girls like you need to be saved from a dark evil cat that threatened to conquer the world by being stuck into trees. I won't let you suffer from them, I promise." She offered him a smile and then laughed when he took a heroic pose by placing one hand over his chest and the other straight in the air, much like Superman. "Thanks, you're my hero. Next time, I give my distress call for you." "It was my pleasure, Naruto. Namikaze is my name, what's yours?" Naruto said when he remembered that they hadn't introduced themselves to each other. The girl's eyes widened, but then her lips formed a beautiful smile. "Kara Kent, so Naruto, what did you made this decision to move to a small village like Smallville?" Naruto chuckled, sending waves through his chest before he spoke. "Actually the view, you've here the fields, lakes and rivers, trees and all those things I did miss in the great large city of Metropolis. I'm sure you already know who I am, do you?" Kara nodded, offering him a bright smile as she placed her hand on his. "Yes, I did know since you gave me your name. It's the thought that one of the biggest companies would move here to a small village while one of them moved to Metropolis." "Lex Luthor?" She nodded, not surprised that he knew that. "I know, I did a background check up on him, a piece of shit. Using his intelligence and resources for making others suffer while he could do good, bringing our world to a new age, but no, he have a petty vendetta against the Man of Steel." He told her what his plans were with his company, about how he wanted to secure the lives of the innocents, increasing hospitals' percentage of saving lives. Kara found that a noble goal and what she had heard on the news, she couldn't disagree with him. The conversation deepened until it came on her aunt and uncle. "Oh shit, I totally forgot to search for Pa." Kara rushed to her feet, but due to the after effect of the kryptonite, she wobbled a bit on her leg. Naruto Quick was next to her, holding her by the shoulders, steadying her. With a worry expression the blonde male addressed her. "What is it, something wrong?" Never she had found someone like him, worrying about her while he didn't know her first. Most people, mostly male, would take advantage of her, but he didn't, and that he shows care about her well-being made her chest warm. She laughed a bit when he flapped his arms. No, nothing like that, Naruto. At least not the end of the world. The blonde male gave her an exasperation look that made her broke out in a fit of laughter. Something worse, Ma asked me to ask Pa to get some chicken and slice of bread, and I left the house without thinking, and you guess I couldn't find Pa. Oh well, can't help it. Your uncle would be possible already back on your farm, well let go, gathering your ant list. Naruto said while nudging her shoulder that she did back, and together they moved out of the park and laughed the whole way between conversations. Kara leaning into his side when they walked down the shops as she led him to the shop. The two gathered the items, and Naruto halted her. Kara, I can give you a lift back to your farm if you want. I know. Kara thought first at flying back, but shot that one immediately down. It wasn't becoming of letting someone else paying for your food, certainly someone that had helped her so much. She didn't care if he was the owner of Konoha Incorporated, one of the largest company of the world, as she had found a true friend in him in the short time that they met each other. Besides, she can offer him to eat with them, an early dinner maybe, as it was far past afternoon. Thank Naruto, that's nice of you. Care to stay at the farm for dinner? I'm sure Pa and Ma will enjoy your companion, and certainly after I tell them about our little adventure. The two stepped into his car. He started his engine and rode away. The whole way they spoke about everything. You came here to Smallville to escape the great city. I would almost think that you tried to escape the circle of what Luther found himself in. You mean, being hunted down by a grown-up man in a latex costume and a showing underwear? No thank you. The image only gives me the shivers. Never before had she heard someone blatantly describe her cousin like that. She broke out in a fit of laughter for the 100th time this day and calmed down when they arrived at their destination. Once arrived at the farm, Kara opened the door and stepped out with Naruto following her. When Kara's feet touched the ground, the farm door flew open and an older man entered his estate with a shotgun relaxed in his hand. Kara, there you are, you made us concern. And who is that fellow that brought you back? He pointed the end of the loop on Naruto. Hello, a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Kent. We can explain our story, and beside, my name is Naruto Namikaze. Yes, I am sure explanation is in order, please come inside. Sorry for the rough welcome, but I didn't recognize you, Mr. Namikaze, and I am sure you can understand my concern. Naruto waved it off, smiled at before he followed him into the house with Kara behind him. He passed the entrance and entered the kitchen, his eyes widened when a frying pan flew through the air and connected with the top of his head. Bang. Naruto's head fell back. His hands clasped his head, his lips parted. "Aitai," he yelped, rubbing his head. "That hurt, which higher being have I annoyed this time?" Kara chuckled behind her hand as she moved over to the freeze, opened to pick up a sack of ice, and walked back to Naruto to give it to him. That Naruto took graceful and placed it on his head. "Hello, you must be Power Girl Aunt. I can see where she gains her strength from." Martha's eyes widened, her lips moved, saying something that he didn't understood. He turned to Mr. Kent and offered him a wry smile. "Mr. Kent, I can see that your wife and your niece have a right punch. They really hit hard. I think that the best that we sit around the table and explain what happened, right?" Pa nodded and led them to the table. Naruto and the family Kent parked themselves around the table. Kara sits next to Naruto with wry smile, offering him comfort. "Oh, poor you. Getting hit by a frying pan, but nothing to worry about, as I can see that there's nothing wrong, not a dent to spot." Kara cooed with mirth that earned her a pout from the blonde male. "Haha, really funny, Kara, but look. I believe my head is now grotesque. You big baby, nothing is wrong. You're still as handsome when I first met you a few hours ago." Kara blushed when she noticed what she said, and her aunt and uncle laughed. Naruto bumped his shoulder against her, offering her a smile before they started their story. Jonathan and Martha Kent listened, laughed at the right moment, and found some part extremely amusing. Before the group knew it was ready to dinner, and they had offered Naruto to stay for dinner as a thank you for anything that Naruto, of course, didn't decline, and the whole dine was an enjoyable moment. Kara found it too soon that Naruto left them. She walked him out of the house and gripped his hand. She pulled herself up and planted a kiss on his cheek that caused him to turn crimson. "Thank you for everything, Naruto. I did enjoy our time together." "I did enjoy our time too, Kara." Naruto planted a kiss on her cheek. "Do you want to visit my house tomorrow? The gardeners are done with my estate and so." "Yeah, sounds like a plan. So, I see you tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Naruto nodded, stepped out of the house, entered his car and started the engine. He waved once and then rode off the Kent's estate, leaving Kara behind with a smile as she herself vanished into the house. She bid her parents goodnight that looked at her with amusement before she climbed the stairs and fell on her bed with a large smile while she closed her eyes. Ring. The phone rang through her room. Her eyes fluttered open, she glanced at her phone. Ring. She stretched her arm to reach for her phone while the phone ringed for the third time. Okay, calm down. She grumbled, annoyed that the phone broke her thought about a certain blonde, spiky young man. Her hand caught the phone and brought the thing to her ear. Kara here. Hi girl, Babs here, how are you girl? A girl's voice spoke over the phone. Kara did recognize this voice anywhere and with a smile she spoke. Hi, you too, Babs, I'm doing great, you? Barbara Gordon, daughter of James Gordon, head of the police. She's a crime fighter much like her mentor, Batman, the Dark Knight of Gotham, and co-crime fighter Robin and Nightwing. Her father doesn't know about her nightly trip stopping crime throughout the city of crime. Great, I think, hey can I sleep at your place tonight? Barbara asked her friend that made Kara wonder why. Sure, let me first ask Pa. Kara left the phone, stepped out of her room and descended down the stairs. Pa, Barbara Gordon asks if she can crash tonight here, you know her, the girl who saved my life from kryptonite. Jonathan, John or as everyone calls him, just Pa. Her uncle raised his head, eyes fixed firmly on Kara, his adopted niece. After a pregnant silence he spoke. I'm okay with her staying with us, as long as she won't lead any maniacs to our farm, then she may stay. Thanks, Pa. Kara grabbed him in a hug, causing him to wince as he groaned out. He felt his ribs crack and not for the bests. Oops, sorry Pa, next time I tried to be more careful, he. John gulped a bout of fresh air into his lungs before he spoke. It's alright, dear. I think you're somewhere needed, nah? Kara smiled brightly at him before rushing up the stairs and landed on her bed. Babs, you're still there? And? Barbara asked with hope in her voice. Kara smiled that Barbara could feel on the other side of the line. You may stay, as long as you don't lead any maniacs to our farm. I promise. Well, the reason I called is because Batman and his team, meaning Robin and I, will arrive tonight to investigate something at your place. I didn't want to return at such an hour and thought of crashing at your place, but you're really great, how so? Barbara spoke excitingly. You could imagine a rising sun behind her with sun rays. Kara coughed, you said investigating something at my place. Ah, I can explain that later to you, come on, why are you great? Did you save Smallville from crazed metahumans? Did you work together with Superman? The girls laughed at the trained speed of Barb's questioning. None of the above, except saving Tora, that stupid cat with kryptonite, but I had a really great day, you never would guess what. You saved Smallville from the evil claws of supervillain, Tora the Mad Cat. She guessed that caused Kara to cry in mirth. Oh, I wish that was true, but I've a story for you. It was quiet on the other side of the line. Kara took this as her clue to tell her story. Kara sighed deep and then spoke, her voice sounded like chimes, but Barb did let that slide for later blackmail. The day, in Smallville I met someone, he's 6 feet and 8 inches tall, sun-kissed golden, spiky hair that you can see from miles, bright cerulean, blue eyes that looks like clear blue sky, muscles that look sculpted out of marble, that made him look like a god on earth, and his arms felt so warm and comfortable. Barbara smirked when she heard her best friend talk. Yep, enough blackmail for later. Damn, sounds dreamy, girl. And does he lives in Kansas? Kara nodded her head in confirmation, not that her friend could see that. Yeah, I am going visit him tomorrow. Blimey, you work fast, girl. Good luck. The other girl wished her the best. She was glad that her best friend has some kind of crush while she doesn't know herself yet. And what's the name of this hunk? You'll never believes who he is, his name is Naruto Namikaze. Kara's voice shot an octave higher as she squealed, her heart bounced out of control in her chest when she shivered when reliving the feeling of lying in his strong, broad arms. The blonde-haired Kryptonian didn't notice the silence on the other side of the line until it was broken by her friend's voice that sounded small. Did you say, Namikaze as in Naruto Namikaze, CEO of Konoha Incorporated? Yeah, I did, why? Kara asked, suspicion laced her voice. Her chest constricted when scenarios started to play in her head where her best friend's mentor would sneak into his house and using his usual methods to gain information, meaning hanging her friend at the side of the building by his feet. Her stomach twisted at the thought and a growing anger rose in her chest. Does your mentor, Batman, suspect him to have some affiliation with villains of Gotham, League of Shadow or Lex Luthor? Then if he thinks that he does, then he is 100% wrong. Barbara sighed. Maybe it was wiser to not tell her that they would sneak into the estate of the CEO of Konoha Incorporated. Well, it is already too late for that, and even if they did hit their target, then she would know somehow, no matter what. She returned back to her phone after her friend had calmed down a bit. I don't know, I've read some articles about him in the magazines, and they are all about world improvement, healthcare and aerospace. Also, I had heard that he had declined LexCorp, and that's a big plus point for me, and that he did join Wayne Enterprise. Kara sighed, wiping her eyes. I understand that it is not your fault and I apologize that I blew up on you. I'm sorry Barbara, are we okay? Barbara laughed at the other end of the line. I was never offended by you, but next time do it at the right person. We're okay, girl. Come on, I mean, someone that helped you rescue a cat that held a kryptonite crystal that weakens you, and then he is there to rescue you from an ugly fall. Then he carries you romantically in his arms, bridal style, mind you. Kara groaned in embarrassment, she should never have told her that part. Barbara grinned like a loon when she heard her best friend groan and just continued go down the list. Then he let you rest in the park while placing your head on his lap while waiting, and I am sure that he stared at your beauty, the real you. After horrible hours of listening of you snoring you wakes up and you guys shares dreams and hopes. If that isn't love at first sight then I don't know. Kara groaned while burying her head in her pillow. She does miss her other pillow, but she will never tell him. While the girls were talking at the phone, Naruto had just arrived on his estate, parked his emerald car, and shut off the engine of his Ford F-150. He stepped out of his car, whistling a song while he moved through his garden. Enjoying the view that was a mix of Asian and Greece style. The cherry trees are in full bloom, and they will only leave their beauty when autumn appears, thanks to my special seal. The path that leads to the garden has 2 rows of cherry trees at both sides and parted in the center where the pond lay. The pond is a special place where a small island is made with a stone with all the names of fallen friend or adopted family of Naruto. Behind the memory stone the 9-tailed beast stands guards over the fallen with their tails fierce and proud spread. Hi guys, well I've built finally my life here on Earth. You would possible never believe, but I've become a CEO and my company is named Konoha Incorporated in honor of our village. Naruto smiled at the last part. Speak you soon. The last shinobi made his body partly disappear and sunk through the ground, disappearing. Naruto used the same technique that his once enemy did, Kamui. This jutsu grants Naruto 2 different abilities, teleportation or making himself intangible, so he can move through objects. In the kitchen, a clone of his had prepared a mug of coffee for the original one and dispelled to let him know. Not a second later, Naruto rose up, out of the floor into the kitchen. His hands reached for the mug, brought it to his face and took a sniff. Holiday blend of Olympia coffee roasting. With a content smile he walked out of the kitchen to his bedroom, placing his mug on a night table and lay down. He let the thought of his adventures through his mind of what he had experienced today. Meeting Kara was a blessing, an adventure of his own, but he could not help to feel that something was amiss. When he had met her at the corner of street in an amusing way, bumping into each other. It had hurt him slightly, as if he had walked into a wall. The next strange thing was that she had heard the plea for help that was pretty far in a remote part of the village, and no normal human could have heard the old woman. Then when she saved that damn cat, Tora, she lost balance or more precisely her body function. She shivered terrible all thanks to the lady's monster pet. Naruto had noticed the strange crystal that hung on Tora's neck and couldn't help to shiver at its presence. That crystal felt bad, not something from this earth. When Kara rested and there were lesser visitors in the park, he had created a few shadow clones that started investigation about the strange crystal, and what he had found out didn't mean any good. His clones found out that 22 years ago a meteorite had slammed nearby Smallville. People found out that the meteorite contained crystals and they named them kryptonite. The term kryptonite echoed vague in his head as if he had heard it somewhere before, and after reflecting where he had heard that term, another name rose up. Lex Luthor, CEO of LexCorp, held always a small crystal with him for distress calls for when Superman would show up. The man himself had told him. It was a possibility that Kara is an alien that allergic is for kryptonite. He was glad that his company also deals in alien ships and other tech. Kryptonite is something that needs to be studied. An alien originative crystal can be dangerous for normal humans, and who knows what happens to those that are infected. Naruto stared at his ceiling when suddenly the alarm did go off. What sets my seals off? In a flash he sprung out of bed, and with a few quick steps he was close to his door. He grasped his weapon pouch and wrapped that around his right upper leg, a short ninjato he placed under his coat and stepped outside, where he saw 3 strange figures standing in the shadows. He made sure that they couldn't see him coming out of his house and observed them from out the shadows. Kara looked out of her window and gained the signal that they were at his estate. She opened her window and flew off into the night. The sky was clear from any obscure clouds that could let her hide there, but alas it wasn't. She flew low to avoid any unwanted attention, and a few miles from Naruto's estate, she landed in a tree and used her X-ray vision to follow scene. Her perfect blue sapphire eyes noticed 3 figures move through his estate, like ninjas. She shook her head from those thoughts. Everyone knows that Batman is some kind of ninja, and his protege were not far off. While the 3 members of the Bat family moved through the shadows, she noticed a 4th one joining them that came from the house. The blonde superheroine decided to use her super hearing as she could bet her cousin's teddy bear that something will happen tonight. Barbara now at night she's known as Batgirl, and together with her mentor Batman and co-crime fighter Robin, she sneaked through the estate of one of the richest person that she know and possible crush of her best friend. Through her night vision her eyes adjusted perfectly at the dark. What she saw made her eyes widen in surprise. The garden was like a painting out of a dream world. Field of different flowers could be seen, and it saddened her a bit that she couldn't see the colors with her vision. Cherry trees in full bloom. Well, it is almost past season. A hill with a small ancient Greece temple with images about the hunt and maidens. Slowly she crawled towards the temple and looked down, and her heart fell in love with his garden. The scene was breathtaking, and she defiantly going to bug Kara to let her join visiting her crush. "Batgirl, there's no time to gawk at the scene below you," came the gruff voice of Batman, her mentor. She narrowed her eyes, nodded once before she made her way towards the mansion. "Geez, don't the bat have a heart or something, or did the devil took it?" Quietly the three crime fighters moved through the shadows, through the garden when Batman stopped. In his usual gruff voice he spoke. "Do you see the light at that window?" Batgirl and Robin nodded, motioned him to continue. "I suspect that window is our ticket to our questions. Robin, I want you to move quietly and swift towards that window and gather information about his plans." Robin nodded. He waited, as he knew that Batman wasn't done yet with explaining. "Batgirl, I want you to scan this estate for future investigation. You might never known when that came in handy. I myself will question the CEO." A grim smile formed on his usual scowl. The crime fighters had their orders and moved quietly through the night, but before they could set a step, a surprise welcomed them in the form of sounds, cutting air. And three kunes planted themselves in front of their feet, freezing them in shock. A mocking voice floated through the air. Well, what do we have here? Three trespassers on my ground. I'm sorry, I want to say trick or treat. But much to our disappointment, Halloween had already passed, or did you three didn't watch the calendar?" Kara, that observed the scene, was first shocked when her eyes lost sight of Naruto when he vanished into the shadows while she could see the Bat family clearly. She, herself, marveled about the beauty of his garden and understood the hesitation of Batgirl when she watched her friend looking down from up the hill. Her super hearing made it for her possible to hear the gruff Dark Knight speak, saying it wasn't time to gawk about the beauty of the garden. After that the scene took a swift turn as suddenly three pointing objects were planted in front of the crime fighters and Naruto made his presence known. She laughed about his way of speaking, mocking them by saying that Halloween had passed. Her attention turned back to the group when Batman and Naruto started talking again. Batman grinded his teeth about the mocking way he spoke. Never before had someone said this to him in his career of being the Dark Knight. Robin thought the same as his mentor, while Batgirl found it amusingly, referencing them to Halloween. It was refreshing for once. Batman crouched low, his hand reached down to pull out the kunai. The Dark Knight eyed the weapon carefully with a critical eye that brought Batgirl attention back to the matters at hand. Now that her head was clear, she had never noticed him move through his estate or heard him pull his weapons. Her mind made decided that she would keep a close eye at this young man. Batman's hand did sneak towards his pouch, pulling three batarangs and threw them through the air. His batarangs met Naruto's shurikens, mid-air succeeding them to a halt. Naruto took a casual pose, but for those with a trained eye, could clearly see a stance in his posture. "Who are you, and what are your business here on my estate? Speaker, be subjected to the consequences." The voice of the CEO of Konoha Incorporated was cold, void from any emotion. His eyes were narrowed, cold cerulean eyes stared at them, calculating them, and his glare made that of the Dark Knight pale in comparison. Said Dark Knight narrowed his own eyes, sending his own pattern bat glare, starting a glaring contest. They could feel the air between them cracks with electrical lightning. After some time the contest was done, and the clear winner was, to everyone's surprise, the CEO of Konoha Incorporated, but the Dark Knight didn't accept defeat easily, and in his pattern gruff voice, he demanded answers for his questions. "I'm Batman and these are my partners, Batgirl and Robin. We've come here for getting answers for some of my questions." Naruto noticed the gear that they wears were pretty secure for crime fighting and disclosing their real identity. The Dark Knight himself is wearing his black Kevlar armor with at the center of his chest his bat logo. His black Batwing cape was secured around his shoulder and a firm bat cowl to hide his face. His eyes were hidden behind dark red glasses, giving it menacing look. A yellow utility belt around his waist and his arms in black guard gloves with sharp grip hook attached. The same could be said of Batgirl, but with a bit color of purple at the sideline of her costume. Robin was the oddball of the entire group with his red Kevlar chest, green pants and yellow utility belt that made Naruto imagine about a traffic control. "Answers are what you want. Two nutcases and one beauty want answers from little Almi. I'm honored." The blonde said, trying to reel them up, and no surprise did it work, as Robin narrowed his eyes, his hand sneaked towards his utility belt and three bird earrings slid into his hand. "Who are you calling nutcases?" Robin shouted, making Batgirl and Kara back in the three, a few miles away smirk. Both had the same line of thought. He's so easy to reel up. Batman himself shook his head disappointingly at the behavior of his protege. Naruto decided to reel him up more and spoke mockingly. "Well, look at you, aren't you the oddball of the whole Bat family?" "Batman, I can see why." A costume like a bat, possible sneaking through the shadows in search for his victims at night, and a clear daylight he's hiding in his Batcave, brooding in the dark. I think I christen you from Dark Knight to Dark Broody Moody. The new christened Dark Broody Moody scowled deeply while he glared at his opponent. Then we come at the walking traffic light. I mean, come on, you've too much color in your costume unlike them. Red, yellow and green in perfect arrangement of a traffic light. Or is your costume to show your mood points? First you were calm, green. Then you were slowly cooked up, I think that's yellow, and then the last is when you lose control of emotions, meaning red. True to his predicaments, Robin lost his calm. His arm flashed and 3 bird-earrings cut the air and flew to their target. Batman and Batgirl were too slow to stop Robin as he sprinted after his bird-earrings to engage him in close combat. Batgirl pouted, she wanted to discover what he had to say about her. But for now, she would observe the fight. The Princess of Justice has a feeling that Mr. Namikaze have much more to show than he let them show. If those counter of his blocking Robin's bird-earrings and stalling them before was a small preview of his true power, then she couldn't wait to find more about him. Robin charged after his bird-earrings to his target. He jumped into the air in a crouched position, arms wide like the wings of a bird. He noticed that his target hadn't taken a stance and stands there like pillar, while a smirk grew on Robin's face. The traffic light christen landed in front of Naruto and his arm shot out towards his face. With his obtained speed from sprinting towards his target, he was sure that he wouldn't miss, and it came as a great surprise when he felt the hard floor on his back. Robin's eyes traveled up to notice that his target, Naruto, still stands, but now in front of him with his back to him, staring at his partners. What had happened? Robin thought while he lay on the ground. He was sure that his fist would connect with his target as he would be busy to avoid the bird-earrings. So what had happened? Batman, Batgirl and Kara's eyes widened in shock of what had played a moment ago. They followed Robin, charging after his bird-earings, and that's where it happened. Naruto's feet slowly shifted to a position in front him, turning his body to make himself a small target while his arm made a curved motion, sweeping in one movement all the bird-earings out of range and back in position to intercept Robin's fist. His hand caught Robin's fist, blocking it, and then swiftly glided towards his wrist while his front feet moved, kicking Robin's feet as his hand that held his wrist lifted him up, and Robin flew over his shoulder and landed on the hard ground behind him, and Naruto turned back to his relaxed stance, showing as if nothing had happened, while all of that had happened in a split second. The 3 eyewitnesses followed this movement cause 2 of them were martial art masters, and the last one an alien with super eyes. Oh my, he had just floored Robin in a flash. Batgirl thought. She was deep impressed in his skills, and this showed her that this wasn't the best of what he could do. His martial skills are very advanced if what she caught was something. Batman had the same train of thought as his partner while he watched the whole confrontation with narrowed eyes. High skills are very advanced, maybe above my own, but Robin is still young and his skills were clouded with rage, but then, Naruto used first trash talk to rile him up before engaging him in close combat. He's someone that need be monitored. And Robin's training need to go an octave higher. Kara was surprised at the skills of her friend. She had never thought that he could floor a partner of the infamous Batman with such ease. This small show showed a bit at how he could feel so hard when she ran into him and how his body felt so great. It's all through hard training, but still he's nothing more than a human. The superheroine turned her attention back to the group when she noticed Robin move. Robin groaned, sucking air into his depleted lungs and cradled back to his feet. He raised his head and glared at his opponent. With pained voice he addressed Naruto. What did you do? How did you avoid my bird-earings and countered my attack? Naruto turned slightly to him, still keeping the other 2 in sight. He glanced once at Robin, his eyes took the state of Robin that stands there slightly bended through his knees while holding one hand around his ribs. I did what I must. Earning a growl from Robin. If you use your mind then maybe you will find out yourself what you did wrong. If not then you will never grow. The blonde then turned to the other pair. Where was I? Oh yeah, I remember. The traffic light. Now we move on to our beauty here, Batgirl. I must say that costume of yours defines your curves nicely. I bet that if you show your face that you would blind me with your bright eyes and cause me an heart attack when you smiles. Alas, I don't think the dark broody moody over there would allow that, a pity. Batgirl blushed crimson red when he appraised her while Kara growled a few miles away, high into a tree. The blonde girl wanted nothing more than take off and smack his face for flirting with her friend. Just wait Naruto, tomorrow I'll show you. I'm sorry, Kara, but he said it so sweet, Batgirl thought while down fighting her heating cheeks. Her chest constricted while her heart hammered 1,000-fold. Naruto's voice broke her out of her heated state, not that it helped much. I bet that Batgirl keep you 2 in line, after all women are better than men. They are much smarter, stronger and flexible, and I wouldn't mind if she would caught me. The underlying meaning brought him shivers when he felt a glare fell on him from a few miles away from a certain tree. Well, Batgirl shared his feeling, but with something else too, that didn't diminish her heat when suddenly he spoke again. Batgirl, her eyes traveled to him, a small smile played at the corner of his lips. You were distracted, if this was a real fight. She immediately understood what he referred to and smiled. To her it felt as if they took lessons, differently than what Dark Broody Moody offers them. Batman, I think you want this back. The Dark Knight, Batgirl and Kara watched when Naruto's arm moved and something flew through the air, and Batman caught it. It was the bat device that Bruce Wayne had planted in his office. Thanks, was the short, gruff response from the Dark Knight, whom smirked slightly. How did you know that my bat device was there in your office? Let's say you hung. What I told Bruce Wayne about doing background checks, well, I did that about him too, of course. It wasn't easy to dig into his past, but I did, and what I found wasn't pretty. I found out his drive, and it was much better than the petty revenge of an idiot called Lex Luthor. Next, about how I did find your device of yours, I always check my office after each meeting, as many people once steal my ideas. Now about Bruce Wayne background, I know everything about him. Batman paled slightly at his reference of him and knows that he had been found out and was slightly worried. But the next thing made him sigh in relief. If my next statement would make you happy, Batman. And I know you will. I want to work with your secret benefactor, as I did a background check on all your adventures, and I want you to test out my crime-fighting products together with your partners. That way I show him and you that I am a good guy and you can keep an eye on me. For our next meeting you don't have to sneak through my garden, just call me and you will. Robin, Batgirl and Kara laughed loudly this time when he spoke in Batman pattern way of speaking. Robin was still sour about being easily defeated in a fight that you can't even call one. Batgirl herself couldn't wait to test out his products and smiled brightly, and Batman just nodded. Thanks. Naruto laughed while slowly he shook his head from left to right. It's for the best, Batman, the world needs heroes like you, dark and moody. Leave now and never come back at this god-late hour. Batgirl and Robin sniggered at the reference of the Lord of the Rings, Gollum speaking, and vanished into the shadows. Batman was one of the last that vanished after long staring and offered him rare smile, something that didn't happen enough. Naruto turned, his eyes locked on a lone tree where Kara was hiding, and with a voice that bordered on whispering her spoke with a smile. Did you enjoy the little show, Kara? Kara's eyes widened in comics proportion when her super hearing caught his voice and her eyes locked with his. For a long time the two stared at each other until he broke it and returned back to his mansion, and with a small wave of his hand, he closed his door. For a long time, Kara stared at his mansion, frozen in what seems like hours that were in reality not more than 5 minutes. She came back to her sense and flew back to her house for a long conversation between Barbara and herself. There's much to speak about, and long grilling for one sun-kissed golden-haired young man the next day. Meeting super cousin. Kara Kent, the Maiden of Steel, slept peaceful in her bed, eagle spread. Her head rests on a soft pillow. Her waist-length blonde hair cascaded down her angelic face, obscuring it from view. The sheets were kicked of her light form, showing the heroine sleeping in a light blue see-through nightdress that left little to the imagination. The sunlight peeked through the curtains, and a lone ray brought her out of her sleep. With a light groan she stretched her light body, arching her back like a cat while trying to retain her yawn that broke free. Slowly she slid one sleepy eye open, roaming her room until it rested on the light form of Barbara Gordon, daughter of the chief of Gotham's police force and secret vigilante, that made the villains release their bowels in fear for Batgirl, whom stalks the night at the side of the Dark Knight. That same girl is also her best friend and confident in everything like last night. Last night she had gained a lot of questions about a certain golden-haired, spiky young man with bright cerulean blue eyes, and she together with her best friend had gathered the puzzle pieces together that they had obtained that night and the pieces that's common knowledge in the world, plus her own experience with him when they met for the first time. Kara closed her lone eye to rest and let her mind travel back when she took off from the tree that she had been hidden in since the start of Naruto's confrontation with the night vigilantes of Gotham. Did you enjoy the little show, Kara? The voice of Naruto, carried by the wind that Kara's super hearing caught. Her head turned, eyes stared at the blonde, and then to her surprise he looked straight at her, eyes locked. Cerulean bright eyes locked on sapphire eyes that mirrored surprise and shock. How did he know that I was spying at their little gathering? How? Indeed, she watched Naruto, who made a hand gesture, tip the head before turning and vanished through the door of his home. She waited a few minutes before jumping off the tree, airborne a few seconds before flying off back to her farm. The blonde needed answers and a plan, and she know exactly whom she can ask. A few seconds later she descended down to earth, spotting already the person that might help her to satisfy her curiosity of questions about a certain blonde young man with bright cerulean eyes. Barbara watched the night sky. The view was different than in the great city where the light of the buildings ruins the beautiful view what you can only view here in a small village and the only light comes off from the moon while the stars shines brightly down on her. While she watched the stars, she noticed the arrival of her best friend that landed next to her and wrapped her in a warm embrace. "Hi Barb, how are you?" "Hi Kara, I'm fine, should we get inside and something to drink before we start?" Barb replied with a knowing look. Her eyes locked with those of Kara, searching for something that might give a clue in Kara's eyes. That something, she had found that and smiled before pulling her friend inside the house. Kara followed her friend inside the house where they are welcomed by 3 mugs of hot chocolate and a smiling Martha behind the counter. "Welcome Barbara, was the trip worthwhile?" "Not exactly worthwhile, but Kara and I will compare some notes in her room before we let sleep conquer," said the red-haired girl with a smile and an eye wink while picking up a mug. John already retreated to his bed. Martha blew the steam off her mug before answering, while Kara gave her aunt a kiss on the cheek before leaving the kitchen and climbing the stairs. "Yes, my husband isn't the youngest anymore and the field doesn't work on its own. Well, I bid you sleep well and don't make it too late girls, and Barbara your bed is set in Kara's room." "Thanks Aunt Martha for everything." Barbara thanked Martha before leaving the kitchen by climbing the stairs to join Kara in her room. Once at Kara's room she fell eagle spread on her bed before crawling back up and sits Indian style, facing Kara. Kara from her own bed mirrored Barbara, both waiting for the other to begin their conversation that would come. She took a sip from her mug and smiled. Kara loved hot chocolate and it isn't something that could be found on her home planet. Kara gathered her thoughts while draining her mug before giving Barbara a meaningful look, saying that this was serious. "What do you know about Naruto Namikaze and what are your thoughts now that you met him?" Hearing the seriousness in her friend's voice, she placed her hand under her chin, taking a thinking pose. For a few minutes she let her mind replay the event at Namikaze's estate and then nodded. Barbara locked eyes with Kara and spoke her mind. "I think that Naruto Namikaze hides a lot, keeping secrets and only revealed a small margin of his actual skills." Earning a nod of agreements from Kara she continued. "I think and I know that you know the world's image of him that are described in magazines, his countless discoveries on medical improvements that minimize the causalities in hospitals and the satellites in our orbits, and I don't have to broad that out. What we now need to do is comparing notes of our findings about him. You know him a day outside his busy schedules that let him drop his guards, and what I've heard from you doesn't border it being evil, but more the opposite, it's actually funny. We tried to gather information about him through sneaking into his estate, well you've discovered more that can make Batman Green of envious." Kara decided to add her own thought into the conversation. She smiled at the praise that she gained from her friend and the thought of Batman turning green at the thought of not doing his job properly. "Thanks for the praise girl, but your team and you did an excellent job as well. Sneaking into his estate wasn't an easy job if he caught you. I've observed your first contact and what I saw made my eyes widen in surprise. When you climbed the hills to take a better view of his estate, that movement triggered something as Naruto sneaked out of his house not long after your instructions. My eyes caught him sneaking towards the shadows and then, he was gone nothing that my eyes could track until he appeared again, throwing his weapons at you, successful halting you and your team." Barbara nodded, knowing the truth as she was there not long ago. She motioned with her hand to let her know that she can continue her story. "He goaded you and your 2 male partners and was successful when Robin's emotion reached his yellow stage that staggered to the red zone, losing his cool and threw his birdarangs at Naruto. It was here that he really displayed some of his skills as he discarded in one smooth move all 3 the birdarangs before returning his state and ready to defend himself. Blocking Robin's punch, then shifted to his wrist, pulling him slightly forward while he kicked his feet that made Robin lose his balance that gave him the opportunity to throw him over his shoulder, causing Robin to land behind him, all that in a matter of seconds. Barbara finished for Kara that shook her head in exasperation. Barbara doesn't know yet, but she adopts Batman's behavior of interjecting into someone's explaining. After that Now it was Kara's turn to interject when she remembered the blatant flirting of Naruto. That idea brought an unfamiliar feeling in her chest and that was clearly heard when she spoke. "Flirted with you, praising you, saying that your costume shows your light body in perfect shape. How dare Naruto flirt with someone else, nonetheless my best friend?" Kara. "He used flirting in a tactical way, saying that this could have killed me if it wasn't him," Barbara said, trying to show her friend that Naruto used flirting for a kind of lesson. It doesn't help much for Kara whom started cursing Naruto and an evil glint formed in her eyes that caused Barbara to shiver. "I'll show him for abusing a girl's heart. He toyed with my best friend, no he." Kara felt a pair of arms wrap around her shoulders that caused her to stop muttering evil plans that involved a certain young man. Barbara laid her head down on her right shoulder. Her red hair obscured both their faces. "Kara please, he did mean it all in a good way and beside you let your emotion run wild for your first crush. Yes, that's what you feels now, jealousy. she said when Barbara noticed the confused face of her best friend. It sometimes amazes her about Kara being unfamiliar with some of Earth's lifestyle, but then this feeling that Kara now felt isn't that universal known on all habitants' planets. I know what a crush means, and jealousy I'm not. Kara spoke hotly that caused Barbara to smile thinking about more ammo for blackmailing her later. Barbara spoke softly in her ear. Yes, you know what a crush means, but did you've experienced it yourself? This feeling what you feels now can only feels when you like a person very much and seeing your crush flirting with someone else, namely me caused you muttering evil plans of punishing him. Silence fell after the small explanation of Barbara. It was true, Kara never had a crush, there were boys that seems nice at first glance, but when they spoke their eyes traveled fast south and so did their hands that earned them a ticket to the hospital. After those really small incidents the male population avoided her at all costs and since then no male have asked her out again. Now for the first time, she wanted someone instead someone wanted her and she knows that Naruto can handle her super strength for a strange reason. It didn't came up in her mind that he already showed that he could handle her strength when pulling her along towards the old lady and when she slept on his chest and half asleep punched her pillow then, all using her super strength. And? Did you sort out your feelings for him, Kara? The red-haired beauty questioned her best friend, breaking the silence. Barbara's hand shifted forward to the prominent bosom of her friend, cooping them, waiting and then lastly kneading them, marveling about the firm, round breasts of her friend. I mean how can Naruto resist these, what? Small D cup. Barbara, what are you doing? Kara shrieked in shock when she felt the hands of her best friend groping her, causing her to blush that turned crimson when Barbara spoke. She didn't expect the blatant sexual answer from her friend. Measuring your breasts, wow, they are nice, firm and perky. What do you eat to keep them like this? Kara kept her mouth while feeling her body temperature increase with each word that left her best friend's lips. My own pair aren't like yours at all, a large C cup, I'm a bit jealous of you, girl. I bet Naruto would like them too when he. Barbara. Shrieked the blonde heroine, trying to keep her mind out of the gutter. When Barbara mentioned Naruto, her mind imagined that Naruto played with her breasts instead of Barbara. SSST girl, I've heard that Japanese girls uses this tactic to measure their breasts and giving advice to ensnare their mate. Kara started, a lecherous smile worked up her face. Will not survive my counter-attack. Kara turned in the embrace, tackling Barbara into her bed and her hand disappeared under her cloth. Shrieks, moans of pleasure and laughter filled the room until silence fell and the two girls were asleep, but not before Barbara's last word. Yeah, I think Naruto will definitely be mesmerized by you as did I. The sun stand high in the clear blue sky while Naruto ventured through his garden and reached the hill where the small temple stands where he took seat at one of the benches, staring over the view of his garden. In his hands he held a book entitled Smallville. Discovery of Kryptonite by Chloe Sullivan. The blonde opened the book and flipped through until he reached the chapter entitled Meteor Infected. Chapter 5. Meteor Infected. Meteor infection is the process of acquiring metahuman powers due exposure to green kryptonite. There's not much known about how the process works, but there's two large factors that increase the odds of being meteor infected. The specific type of exposure. Ingestion, inhalation, envenomation, viral bacteria fungal infection, injection or genetic manipulation by green kryptonite. These exposures have different reactions on each person, some of these persons gains metahuman abilities like flying, super strength, control about elements, as long as they are close to their source of power, namely the green kryptonite, but long exposure cause person to go kryptonite-inspired psychosis, meaning where they would lose contact with reality and become obsessed with their natural instincts. More about kryptonite-inspired psychosis, read chapter 7. The other factor is due long exposure of green kryptonite with the same reactions as the first factor. Naruto closed his eyes to let all the information settle in. Reading about green kryptonite and what could happen about long exposure to a person made him worried. So green kryptonite is a source to gain metahuman abilities, too long exposure could let you lose contact to reality and let you go on a rampage. Smallville is a small village that were for a long time exposed to the meteor, and there would be people that have gathered the remains, but there's also people that might be allergic to them in some way. I've seen that old lady function normal to the radiation, while Kara have trouble to stay focused while being exposed. And Kara have been genetic manipulated by green kryptonite and too long exposure has made her body react badly. Is that the reason she felt unconscious when we saved the cat? Questions that needs to find answers, but easy to obtain, surely not. The subject of green kryptonite, meteor infected and all those can be a sour subject for the villagers of Smallville, and maybe for Kara herself too. Cerulean blue eyes revealed themselves when his eyes slid open. He closed his book and placed it next to him. There's not much that you can do right now. He whispered into the wind. Naruto lifted himself up from the bench and made his way back into the house, towards his room and changed into his swimming trunk before moving out of the house again, back into his garden and towards his pool. The pool's view was one out of a tropic environment, surrounded by palm trees, white marble plates and a drinking counter with refreshments and a barbecue, excellent for a house party. The blonde stands at the edge of the pool, swung his arms and sets off, he flew through the air, somersault and dived into the water. Ripples and waves clashed against the edge of the pool while he appeared again, his blonde spiky hair now cascaded down, obscuring his eyes. He wiped his hair out of his face and started to swim, making butterfly movements when he moved through the water, with each swing, his muscles constricted, then relaxed before repeating the process until he reached the end, dived somersault before pushing off with his feet, before returning to his butterfly technique. Naruto continued this for a few rounds, enjoying the exercise when he heard someone calling out his name that came from the entrance of his estate. Finishing his round he climbed out of his pool, slipped his feet into slippers and moved through his garden to the gate. Once arrived at the gate, he noticed that it was Kara and she wasn't alone, as it seems she had taken a friend with her. Naruto smiled, her friend pointed at him, her lips were a bit parted, while Kara turned around when her friend nudged her shoulder, and she mirrored her friend. "Hi girls, welcome to my humble place, come in." A few minutes before they arrived at Naruto's estate, Kara was rushing through the farmhouse, she was late due to doing her hair, brushing her teeth and other things to make her looks more defined. Barbara not far away from her sniggered as she watched her friend doing her best to look good. "Trying to make a good impression on your crush Kara." "Yeah, did you say something, Barb?" came the voice from Kara that had just vanished into the bathroom, doing her hair. Barbara giggled, she'd definitely known why Kara absent-mindedly answered. "Nothing girl, ready to go or else he would start a search team." Humming, Kara shouted, running out of the bathroom, halted in front of Barbara. "And, how do I looks like?" "You looks wild, his mind will be blown away, girl," Barbara said with a smile. Kara wears her hair in a loose ponytail, around her neck is a light blue crystal that hung on a red cord. She wears a white tank top with over a red leather jacket, a tight blue jean with brown leather cowgirl boot. If not, then there's something seriously wrong with him. "Thanks, let's go." Kara giggled as she made her way downstairs, stepping into the kitchen where Martha was packing an apple pie. Martha looked up from her packing when she heard sounds of steps descending the stairs and Barbara with Kara behind her entered the kitchen. "Oh my, Kara, you looks wonderful, here's some apple pie, and now go. Get your man." "Ma!" Kara shouted, eyes wide in embarrassment, face flushed. She turned around, pulled the door open and ran out of the kitchen. Barbara laughed, picked up the bag with pie. "Thanks Martha, we'll tell later how it did go, need to catch up now with Kara." "Just go and enjoy your day. Promise me to keep Kara in line." Martha called her after when Barbara ran out of the house, pulling open the door of the car and took her seat next to Kara. "Will do." "I've heard that, Barb," Kara said, turning on the key, starting the engine and rode off the farm. She turned the wheel. The car turned right while Barbara said on the radio. "What did you hear?" Kara turned her head, raised a brow that said serious. "Serious, Ma called you to keep me in line. Do you remember what you did last night to me and she asks you to keep me in line?" "Yes she did and I don't mind. Beside, I didn't hear you complain of all last night." The blonde pouted at her before turning her attention back to the road while Barbara smirked, crossed her arms over her bust. "Come on, don't pout, beside you looks good. You know, I'm almost jealous that you've set sight on Naruto. If he doesn't accept you, can I then keep you or if he do, can I join?" "Barbara. Get your mind out of the gutter, jeez," groaned the blonde girl, glaring at her friend. She turned the wheel again when Naruto's estate came in view, rode up the drive and halted. She leaned outside the window and shouted. "Naruto. Excited to see your future mate again?" Barbara said with a lecherous smirk before she stepped out of the car while shaking her head. "I know you're excited to meet your boyfriend, but did you really need it to shout? 1. Get your mind out of the gutter, 2. He's not my boyfriend." Kara shouted when she stepped out of the car to join her friend at the gate. Legs apart, arms on her hips she glared at her friend. "And lastly, don't embarrass me in front of Naruto." "You mean, he's not your boyfriend yet?" her friend said, leaning a bit, arms on her hips, mirroring Kara. "And you're right, I get my head out of the gutter." The pair of girls waited, Kara turned to say something to her friend when she noticed her slightly parted lips. "Barb. I know that look." Said girl raised her hand and pointed at something or someone behind her, then nudged her shoulder. That movement caused Kara to turn and mirroring her friend, her lips parted, eyes wide and a blush spread over her face. There, in front of her, Naruto walked up to them behind the gate. His athletic muscular body wet from swimming, his hair, wild and his cerulean eyes shone with mirth. The blonde Adonis halted next to the gate, raised his arm, muscle bulged, showing that they were well trained as he pushed a small red button. Sounds were heard when the gate slowly slid open and a laughing Naruto walked up to them, arms spread before they were wrapped around her light form, then lifting her up. "Hi Kara, glad that you could come. Do you have swimming suits with you or else I can lend you some, not that I mind because you looks beautiful anyway." Kara blushed when she watched Naruto came closer with each step, that blush turned crimson when he wrapped her in his arms and lifted her up. The blonde Adonis said something that she didn't quite caught and when she did her face rivaled the sun. Kara unconsciously raised her hand, cooping Naruto's face that leaned in her touch, causing her to smile brightly at him. "Thanks, you're not bad yourself." "Definitely not bad, I can wake up next to you each day with a smile," she thought, enjoying the moment of intimacy until someone cleared her throat, causing them both to turn their attention to the source. Kara's eyes widened in shame and slightly shock when she had forgotten her friend that stands there a few feet away, with a playful smile adorning her face, holding a camera. And cut. "Very nice people, good job. Got a nice picture for Kara's future wedding." Barbara closed the small distance between them, her smile widened when she noticed the mortified look of her friend, caught like a deer in the headlight. The redhead gave Kara a saucy wink, sticking out her hand to Naruto that took the hand, holding her softly. "Hi, name is Barbara Gordon, soon second best friend of Kara, nice to meet you Naruto." "Nice to meet you too Barbara. I bet you've heard all bad things about me from Kara," replied the blonde playfully, patting her hand before releasing and led her to his estate while Kara had returned to her car and drive the car, parking it behind his before rejoining them. "Oh, you know, planning the future, nothing bad. Barbara," came the voice of Kara when she caught up with them, walking next to Naruto. She sends her friend a meaningful look that caused Barbara to smirk, bumping her shoulder against Naruto that laughed, leading into his house. "Alright girls, upstairs is a room with some suits, you can change there and then we can enjoy the water at the pool." "What are you doing with bikinis, Naruto?" the two girls said in unison, both staring at him, hands on the hips. Barbara sends him a meaningful look that caused him to shiver, while Kara watched him intensely, waiting for an answer. That's difficult to explain, girls. Do you already have a girlfriend?" Kara asked, her mood dropped, but she held strong. She's not for nothing the Maiden of Steel, and she should wait for an answer, for 5 seconds at least. Barbara immediately joined her, speaking her mind. "If you play with us, then I can assure you that is not the last of what you hear of us." Naruto sighed, bringing his hand through his hair before walking in the direction of the living room, there he took a seat while the girls followed and took seat opposite him. "The reason why I've the beachwear is not because I've a girlfriend, I can assure you that. The story is pretty long and maybe for another time, but I will keep it short with enough details to keep myself alive." He said the last part with humor. The girls only weakly smiled at him, then he started his story. "Before I became CEO of Konoha Incorporated, I traveled the planet, sightseeing highlights of the world until I arrived at Tokyo, Japan. Japan is one of the countries with the most advanced technology and I paid them a visit to learn. One day, when the sun hid behind a cloud and rains fell down, I hid myself in one of the cafe and met there a young man, Perseus Troy. Troy was the up-running candidate for prime minister and we fell in conversation. He told me that he had plans to make the environments better for orphanages and told me that he would visit one tomorrow. If I just did know that day would be one of humankind's darkest stain, I would have joined him that day to save them." Kara and Barbara could hear the self-loathing in his voice. Kara, who wanted nothing than console Naruto, kept quiet as she couldn't think of what to say. She rose to her feet, took a few steps and wrapped her arms around Naruto. "Please, continue, it is better to let it all out." Naruto nods, took a deep breath, air filling his lungs before he slowly let the air escape. "I arrived half an hour later, orphanage laid in ruins while the ambulance raced through the street, bringing the children to the hospitals. The corrupt politicians behind the scenes downplayed everything while ordering the hospitals to decline medical care to the children. Many died that night, it didn't matter that I offered a large fortune for saving the children as payment." He fisted his hands, glaring in front of him. He closed his eyes, feeling the change in them, waited to calm a bit down. When he did, he continued. "That was the day I promised myself to invent better devices and apparatuses for healthcare. My adopted mother was a great medic, she's over there by the way." Naruto pointed at a round painting, showing a young woman, not older than 22, long blonde hair framing her face, her eyes were dark brown, and a blue crystal adorned the center of her forehead. She wears emerald kimono that showed her promising bust that made the two girls a bit jealous. Barbara whistled, causing Naruto to laugh. "She's beautiful," said Kara in awe, leaning in Naruto. "Yes, she is. Her name is Tsunade Senju, my adopted mother," Naruto said proudly. Kara nods, staring a bit longer at the picture before taking a sip of her drink. Barbara looked down at the table and discovered 3 glasses of orange juice, confusing her in the process. "When did he give us the drinks?" Kara hadn't such though, focusing on him when he continued. "At the hospital I met him again. Perseus Troy was terrible burned, a few shot wounds and lay at death door. He didn't want an operation, knowing that he was scared for life and his blood was poisoned, leaving him in agony. He told me about his only daughter and asked me to care for her. I couldn't refuse his last wish and promised him before he passed away. After that, many things happened at once, not for the good, and I managed to escape. On the run I discovered that his daughter was kidnapped and held in a brothel. Saved her a few days after her father's passing and brought her to America. I cared for her like an older brother, but the loss of her father and the torture at the brothel scared her soul, and I brought her to a friend of mine where she still is. A few times I visit her and bring over the cloths, including the two-piece bikini and some I held here, if she decides to visit me with her new sisters. The girls were stunned, they hadn't expected a story like that, and prayed for the soul of Perseus Troy for his noble goal that Naruto seems to have adopted. Kara and Barbara's respect for Naruto increased, for his deeds for the orphanage children, and for caring for his foster sister. Kara wrapped Naruto in a tighter embrace, snuggling her face into his shoulder. Thanks Naruto for sharing this with us, we're sorry that we thought that. You played with us, glad that you proved us wrong. Barbara finished, moving over to sit next to him, wrapping her own arms around him and copying Kara. Naruto smiled down at them while stretching his arm, wrapping around their form, and brought them closer to him. Kara, Barbara, don't worry, I'm not mad, actually I'm glad that you did asks. I could have been like Oliver Queen, playing with girls, but I'm not. This shows me that you do actually care about me, thank you. Now up you go, pick out a nice two-piece and join me in the pool. Naruto did expect them to instantly jump to their feet and rush up the stairs, but instead they curled up to him, faces buried deeper into his shoulders, while they pulled his arms tighter around their form. I don't wanna let go, Kara sighed, snuggling while feeling content. Barbara did the same on his other side, snuggling, curling up while leaning in. Aren't you a lucky boy, having two girls for yourself? It lays comfortable. Kara finished her line, Barbara giggled, trailing her finger down his muscular chest. I think it's a bit confusing, two people talking through each other, but I agree with Kara, I don't complain about my position at all. Neither do I, agreed Naruto with a smile. Stroking their shoulders with his hand, causing the girls to shiver in pleasure. The stroking did go along for a few minutes when a thought popped up in his mind. Kara, do you mind that I invite your aunt and uncle for a barbecue party for tonight? I don't mind, Kara replied drowsy, eyes slowly fluttered close. I know why you ask, and I think it is a wonderful idea to cement our friendship. Great, Naruto replied enthusiastic, scooping his arms under their legs, lifting them up and ventured out of the mansion, down the path. The girls marveled at his strength, enjoying his hand while they looked around, viewing the beauty of the garden. Where are we going? Barbara said, enjoying the ride and the view. The view is so much better in daylight than through some stupid night viewer. And his strength, wow. To the pool, we can lay there in the sun on the benches. Replied Naruto, glanced back once over his shoulder to see one of his clones picking up the phone to dial the Kent farm. The blonde Adonis ventured down the path with the girls in his arms, he arrived at the pool and smiled evilly. Barbara and Kara noticed the smirk that formed on his face, sending fear through them. Why are you smiling like that? Kara demanded hesitant, unconsciously she wrapped Naruto in a super powerful embrace. Naruto only winked at her. Doing what I must do, he started sprinting. Barbara now clenched her arms tightly too, screaming at the top of her lungs. Naruto, don't you dare. The scream came too late, Naruto took off with a powerful jump, taking Kara and Barbara with him, sailed through the air, over the water when gravity suddenly got grip on them, plunging them into the water. With a mighty yell the three vanished, water sprouted like a geyser at impact. Underwater he released them from his grip, the girls immediately kicked off to the surface, Naruto following them. The girls gasped for air, they moved their arms to kept floating in the water. Air cascaded down their faces and glared at Naruto when his head appeared while he laughed at Kara and Barbara's expression. Did you? And he was interrupted when the two girls pushed him down underwater, then followed him, holding his arms so he couldn't move as he struggled to get free. The pair of them appeared again at the surface, eyes searching for the blonde male, but he wasn't amongst them. Shit. Did we drown him? Barbara yelped in panic, eyes roaming the pool. Kara wasn't far better off, searching, her eyes glowed a light crimson, when suddenly a hand gripped their heels, pulling them down. Naruto appeared triumphantly at the surface, a large smile adorning his face. Victory. He shouted, stomping the air with one fist. Two pair of hands gripped his shoulders, pulling him down, the girls giggled when they kicked off to the edge, climbed out and moved into the house to change. Naruto watched them go, knowing what they would do, he climbed out of the pool, moved towards the Hawaii counter and picked up a glass, pouring beer and waited for them, enjoying the sunrays on his muscular frame. Barbara followed Kara back to the mansion, stepping inside they moved through the house, leaving a trail of water behind. Don't you think leaving a trail of water is bad for the floor? Barbara shook her head, waving her crimson hair around her face while a mischievous smile worked on her face. I don't think so, girl, besides he did take us down in the pool, making us wet, so it is his own fault. Kara agreed with her on that as they climbed the stairs and moved through the house until they arrived at a room that looks like a girl's room. Posters of the Parthenon and Athena, ruins of Delphi decorated the walls, statues of the Greece goddess stands on display. Wow, you almost think that we walks through a small Greece museum. Kara pointed out, looking bemused at all the art. Barbara meanwhile walked to a door, sliding the doors aside, revealing a walk-in closet. Unbelievable, is his foster sister a supermodel or something? The crimson-haired beauty watched as she saw a sea of cloth. Vague her mind comprehended that the closet wasn't that large as it would go through the room next door, but now that she stands in, it was large, maybe 3 room deep. She picked out the first best 2-piece bikini and eyed the form. Looks nice, it would show my prominent bust well, but not my color. She browsed through the sets of bikinis until she found one in her Batgirl color that is black with purple. Hi Kara, what do you think? Kara, hearing Barbara calling out for her, joined Barbara soon in the closet to see why. What her eyes viewed was difficult to comprehend for her mind. She walked down the long lane of cloths before whirling around on her heel to look at her friend. That bikini looks good on you, it has the same color as your Batgirl costume. Indeed, almost suspicious. Barbara laughed when she unbuttoned her jeans, pulling it down followed with her shirt and lingerie. Kara stared at her, that caused Barbara to smirk. Do you like what you see? Maybe Naruto want to join us, I don't mind. Kara rolled her eyes, browsed through the bikinis and picked one out. Funny, it mirrored the same colors as her Supergirl costume. Barb, do you always have your mind on being suspicious of everything and doing naughty things with me? Almost dear, almost. She finished her change by strapping the small bikini top around her neck before whirling around. How do I look like? Sexy, like you're ready to catch the criminals. Kara said jokingly, finishing her own change, picking up her wet cloth and placed them on a chair to dry. Barbara locked her arms with Kara, leading her outside the closet, down the stairway. Kara pointed her finger at the floor. Do you notice, the floor is dry again when we left the closet, how come we didn't notice anyone cleaning the room when we were inside? Beat me, but did you notice his strength when he carried us? That's natural, right? Barbara replied, glancing at Kara that shook her head. No, it isn't. What do you mean, he isn't an alien or something like that? Barbara shot back. He looks like us, human, right? We can question him after showing him our good look, okay? Kara said, stepping out into the garden towards the pool. The two girls quietly walked through the garden, pointing at a few flowers that were rare, until they arrived at their destination. Kara watched Naruto climbing out of the water towards them, winking at them. I think I'm in heaven, as there are no such beautiful angels here on earth. Naruto complimented the two divine beings in front of him, his eyes roaming over their beautiful form. Barbara wears a small black purple-lined striped bikini top, concealing her prominent firm, round breasts, pushing them up. Then his eyes traveled down her flat stomach until it reached her waist that held a small bikini bottom with stripes while she stepped sensual toward him with her long smooth legs. Naruto's body heat increased, showing a part of him that he liked the view. Kara stepped in, deciding to give him a little preview. Slowly she turned around her axis, showing him her firm, round breasts that were pushed up in her small blue triangle bikini top that revealed much. Eyes traveled down her ribs to her waist that were wide and firm, concealing in a small triangle bikini bottom, and his eyes ended at her smooth long legs for a second before returning to her eyes while she stepped up to him. Do you like what you see, Naruto? Gulp. Naruto gulped audible while the girls eyed his tool that hadn't sit peaceful in front of such a divine sight. They could make out that he was much, much larger than an average person. They licked their lips unconsciously. Do you like of what you see, Naruto? Kara questioned again, in a lewd sensitive voice. Naruto stands there, crimson spread across his entire frame when they came closer. Why yes, he started when the girls suddenly pounced him, resulting them all fall into the pool, breaking the sexual atmosphere. Naruto started to throw Kara and Barbara through the pool, hunting them or they hunting him, while laughter and screams filled the air. While the girls and Naruto had fun, Superman was flying through the atmosphere to his destination Smallville, Kansas. Superman decreased his speed a bit for landing, slowly he descended towards the farm where his foster parents lives. His feet touched the farm ground, looking around his eyes searched for his parents and niece. Deciding to enter the kitchen he stepped up the veranda, pulled the door open, and entered the kitchen. He noticed the apple pie, and that half the pie were gone. He ventured deeper into the house. Ma, I'm back, anyone home? Sounds were heard in the back of the house, and a second later, Martha showed up, smiling up at her son. Clark, welcome back, how's Metropolis, no troubles I hope? No, all was well, the crime rate is low for this month, and Luther is awful quiet, meaning that he's up to something. Clark replied, wrapping his mother in a warm embrace. Martha smiled at her son while she returned the gesture. Good to hear, dear. Pa is working in the farm and Kara is with Barbara visiting a new friend. Before I did forget, we've a new neighbor and we are invited for a barbecue this evening. Great, who are they? Clark questioned, his eyes glowed red for a second while he returned to the kitchen to pick a piece of the pie. Martha followed him, a bright smile on her face. He's new, how is with you and Lois? I heard that you decided to ask her finally out. Yes, I did, from who did you hear that? And who is the new neighbor? You haven't answered my question yet. The man of steel replied while taking a taste of the pie. That was the wrong thing to do when Martha answered him. Our new neighbor is a young man on whom Kara have an eye on a crush. His foster mother started when she said eye on a crush. He sputtered, gasping for air when a piece of apple pie was stuck in his throat. Martha moved in to pat his back to let the broth get loose so he could breathe normally. Crush. He shouted, moving towards the exit, slamming the door open, causing to pull it out of the frame before he hovered into the air, planning to visit the new neighbor. Or that was the plan when Martha pulled on his leg. Clark turned his head, facing his angry mother. Clark Kent. How many times must I warn you on not using your strength and pulling on the door before you go, repair my front door, and if you dare to ruin Kara's day, then I can promise you that you get house arrest. Yes mom, sorry about the door, but I can't promise about Kara's day. Clark darkly said while repairing the front door with his eyes, then moved up to his room, changing into normal cloth, or better said put on normal cloth over his costume. He then opened his window and flew out in search for his niece. After a few minutes touring around his ears caught laughter and flew down to where it came from. Superman was very surprised when he saw a mansion, deciding to first check the estate. He came upon a small temple where a book waited for him, entitled Smallville. Discovery of Kryptonite by Chloe Sullivan. Who's he, and what does he with a book from Chloe and definitely about kryptonite? Clark thought while he floated towards the book, picking it up before leaving the small temple and moved towards the laughter. What he there discovered caused him to narrow his eyes when he noticed Kara and Barbara in revealing bikinis resting on both sides of a young man whom slept peaceful. Kara had her head placed atop of his chest, legs intertwined with his, the same could be said for Barbara. His lips turned in a thin line, his hand fisted while he floated closer. Clark floated a few feet away from them, he raised his arm that held the book, releasing the item that was in the grip of gravity and fell to the floor. At contact with the floor the book made a duff sound, causing the three young adults turn their eyes at him. Kara and Barbara stared wide-eyed at him, while Naruto held an amusing smirk on his face. There floated Superman in his civilian's cloths, arms crossed over his chest, dark circles around his eyes while they gleamed crimson. Clark Kent, welcome, or must I call you Superman? Batcave, Gotham. In the Batcave, Batman was watching the screens, reading the logs about the destroyed space satellites that he had gained from different sources. He had one hand on his chin, rubbing. Trouble is ahead. I wonder if Naruto had find something. The door slid open and an elderly man entered the cave with some refreshments. Still thinking about Master Namikaze, Master Bruce? Yes, Alfred. He had found my device immediately after I left the meeting. That's not something untrained people do, I'm sure of that. Batman replied in his gruff voice, his fingers raced across the buttons. After a few buttons a screen opened, showing the Metropolis news. The pair watched the news until it was finished. It seems that Superman will neutralize the nuclear bombs. Indeed, the astronaut Alan Carter have good points, but is that all? The Dark Knight questioned, narrowing his eyes while his eyes once again roamed the logs. Alfred placed the refreshments on a small table, eyeing the news. I do think he does it for the preserves of our Earth. But placing Superman as our only defense is a bad idea. What happens when someone like Darkseid returns, brainwashing our only defense? Bruce murmured, deep in thought. He didn't hear Alfred sigh. You still don't trust Superman? What about his hard work to show that he can be trusted again? Yes, I don't trust him after that stunt. He hasn't seen the horror that life offers. He understood that, and he knows what to do, unlike him, whom escaped his world's genocide. Bruce said, watching the news, while Alfred moved back to the mansion to do his tasks. I've a bad feeling about this. Smallville, Kansas. Clark Kent, welcome, or must I call you Superman? Naruto welcomed the obviously superhero. The floating was obvious, a sign that he wasn't a human from Earth, and that he held the book was also a large giveaway. You don't take a book with you without demanding explanations that would be proved later. Clark glared at Naruto with crimson glowing eyes, his lips stretched in a snarl. Why do you possess a book about kryptonite? Are you against me? Yes, it is true that I am the Man of Steel, now answer me. You sounds arrogantly, didn't expect that of you. The man they calls heroes of heroes, and he's nothing more than a pampered little child, trespassing someone's ground without permission, and then trying demands answers from me. Naruto said, removing himself from Kara and Barbara's embrace, standing up to face Clark. Clark stands there with his body length of 6'3", while Naruto towered over him with his 6'8", glaring down at him. Now, I must request you to leave my estate. No, Clark shouted, his hand shot out, his fingers slipped around Naruto's throat, lifting him off the ground. Barbara and Kara gasped in shock at the aggressive behavior of Kara's cousin. What's the meaning of this, Clark? It is your own bloody fault that you revealed your own identity to him. Yes, my own fault, and I will amend my mistake by removing him, accidentally. The Man of Steel pronounced coldly, smirking cruelly when he closed his grasp. Naruto's legs moved uncontrolled, his hands moved to Superman's wrist, legs followed by placing Superman's head in a headlock and pulled his arm painful. Superman released his grip on Naruto's neck, letting him fall while he floated into the air. So, you wanted it the hard way, boy. Then watch as I destroy your pitiful mansion. Clark, stop this madness. What's wrong with you? This isn't like you at all, you behave now as if you're controlled by Darkseid. Kara screamed, standing next to Naruto, arms spread in a protecting way, eyes pleading, locked with those of her cousin. A high-pitched laugh escaped Clark's throat when Kara accused his strange behavior of being controlled by Darkseid. You aren't wrong there, cousin, I am your cousin, but at the same time I'm not, you see, when my father. No, you can't mean, Kara gasped when she feared the answer. Clark only smirked coldly, yes, my father is Darkseid, and you might call me Orion. I was born 2 years ago when father brainwashed Superman, creating me. Oh wow, you can't mean Supergirl. Mood point flew out of the pan, she's outraged at the thought of having lost her last blood-remained family. She took off with her feet, jumping into the air, charging her cousin. Barbara jumped to her feet, sprinting to Naruto's side. Supergirl, don't rush in, we need a plan. No. I want my cousin back. And I will get him back, no matter what. Supergirl shouted back, her fists connected with Orion's chest, causing him to flew back. Supergirl followed him, slamming her fist under his chin, delivering an uppercut, then a straight right hook and a slam down followed her combo. Orion slammed into the garden, creating a crater. There goes my garden. Barbara looked exasperated at him. Not believing that he seriously said that, she then moved in to help Kara with bringing Superman back. Naruto sighed, flashing his hands through hand seals to create a private barrier that keeps the containment a secret from the outside world. Now the two heroines can play a bit with Orion while he will scan the fight while searching for the cause of the change of personalities. Naruto closed his eyes for a second, then revealed them, his eyes were pearl white and veins bulged near his temples. Byakugan. Eyes that can see through anything, giving a 390-degree sight and letting me see people energy sources. He muttered to himself, watching the fight between Supergirl and Orion, Superman evil twin. Kara slammed him down again with a powerful slam down, causing Orion to groan. Barbara joined them, landing a devastating blow with a chair on his neck. Orion rubbed annoyingly his neck, turned his head, eyes glowed crimson, and shot beams at Batgirl. Barbara, catch. Barbara, hearing the voice, turned to the source and caught just in time a pouch. Opening the pouch, she saw different weapons that consist of shurikens, seal tags and smog bombs. What are these? Barbara shouted back, avoiding a beam that she narrowly missed. She threw a smog bomb near herself, vanishing from view and appeared next to Naruto. She looked in his eyes and gasped. Your eyes. Naruto shook his head, staring closely at Orion. Every time that Orion moves, he seems to see something crimson glowing around his neck. Supergirl slashed out with her hand when she suddenly was gripped around her wrist, crying out when Orion closed his hand tight. You will make a fine bride for me, niece. Orion taunted with a lecherous grin. He brought her closer to him. Kara snarled at him, spitting him in the face. Bitch. You'll pay for that. Orion raised his hand that held Kara and then made a downward movement, throwing her toward Earth. Naruto, that watched the whole fight, noticed that they haven't any skills in martial arts, their skills were heavy, relied on devastate strength and speed. Kara. Barbara shouted when she watched her best friend pluming down to Earth. Head first she sailed through the air, Orion laughing false and high, watching his niece with a sadistic grin. Naruto growled, his hands flashed through hand seals. Alright, that's enough, Orion. The crimson-haired beauty watched Naruto do some strange things with his hands, and when he was done a column of smog appeared, revealing a second Naruto. This second Naruto jumped airborne above the Naruto next to her before he suddenly disappeared, replacing Kara while she herself landed in Naruto's strong arms. What did just now happen? Barbara screeched in awe, she couldn't wrap her thought around of what had happened a second ago. Naruto was just normal, right? Like her, but it seems he was everything except normal. She whirled around, a hard, serious look in her eyes. Explain, now. Naruto glanced once at Barbara before his attention turned back to Orion, whom fought the second Naruto with a Supergirl and Batgirl. Supergirl charged Orion from under him, both hands in fist state, trying to slam into his abdomen while Batgirl was throwing batarangs. Orion avoided the combination attack when he suddenly clapped double when a leg, cautious of Naruto, planted firmly in his abdomen, and then a devastated hammer slammed to his back, sending him toward Supergirl, that waited for him with an uppercut. She moved her arm back, ready to lash out. Bam. Orion's head flew back. Spit escaped his lips when the fist slammed into his face. The evil twin was dazed by the powerful slam. He shook his head to clear. When alarm bells goes off in his head, Naruto appeared next to him. His hand shot out, grasping a red crystal that was disguised as his necklace, pulling off him with a powerful snap, removing the red kryptonite, causing Orion to close his eyes. He didn't notice a shadow appear above him, slamming him down, back into the previous crater. Supergirl, with Naruto, and what seems like a clone Supergirl watched from out of the sky at the fallen Orion. The second Supergirl poof out of existence together with the second Naruto, and Kara descended back to Earth, landed next to Orion. She grasped the hem of his shirt, lifted him up, glaring at him. "How do I get my cousin back?" Kara demanded, outraged while her eyes glowed and her hair moved wildly into the wind. Orion slowly came by, groaning as his eyes fluttered open, revealing blue eyes. He groaned once more, shaking his head before locking eyes with Kara. What happened? Where am I?" Kara snarled, rage prominent on her face. "Don't play with me, Orion." She hissed, "You attacked us, destroyed Naruto's garden, but above everything, I want my cousin back." "Attacked Naruto's garden? What are you talking, Kara? I didn't attack, I fought Luther," and then everything became vague. Clark said, staring in the glowing eyes of his niece. The grip tightened before she released him, wrapping him in an embrace. She buried her face into his neck. "Welcome back, Clark. I thought that I almost lost you when you did go on a rampage, but how?" Kara felt a sheet wrapped around her form when a voice spoke behind her. "I think that I can explain that part. First, you and Barbara need to change cloths. We don't want Clark having a heart attack, right?" The blonde superheroine turned around, smiling at him. She wrapped the sheet closer around her, then moved to Barbara, and together they moved into the mansion. Naruto's eyes followed them until they are out of sight before they turned back to Clark. All the warmth were gone. "You've a lot to explain to me, pal, not to mention the damage that you caused, but I will make a deal with you, Superman. You keep your lips sealed, no word of what have happened here, and I can assure you that I keep all you identities a secret. Yes, I know." "Who are you?" Clark coughed, still sore from the beating that he got from his rampage. Naruto raised a lone brow, his cerulean eyes hardened for a second before he answered. "I'm the owner of this estate, Naruto Uzumaki, and your new neighbor. And you have work to do." Look, Naruto spread his arms, mentioning his ruined garden. Clark's eyes widened, shame clear in his eyes while he sits there defeated. All is back to normal, but what happened? Clark looked up once more, his eyes widened in awe when the garden was returned to her glory. Flowers were back in her beauty, statues repaired, and Naruto smiled at him, but seriousness was hidden in his eyes. "We'll keep this accident a secret, not for your sake, maybe a bit, but for Kara and your parents. We can't have ominous during the barbecue, and after that we'll talk long and hard." "You're right, and my apologies for the trouble that I caused," Clark said, rising back to his feet with a wry smile. Naruto shook his head, pulling out his hand, offering to Clark, whom took the gesture graceful. "Everyone makes mistakes, and yours was done by a red kryptonite. I want to study the kryptonite, as it had a strange effect on you, showing your evil personality. I can't remember anything of what had happened, but I know that Luther is the cause of this," Clark said darkly, and then followed Naruto to help with preparing the barbecue. The two males carried the tables, placing them close to the pool and the barbecue, followed by the chairs. Clark is a muscular tall young man with combed black hair and glasses obscuring his eyes. He wears a black t-shirt with blue jeans and brown shoes. He was carrying 2 plates full of fish tacos with green jalapeno salsa and chili cream, barbecue defiled eggs filled with smoky chopped pork, then weave the tomato and onion salad and peanut coleslaw salad. Barbara and Kara returned from the mansion, seeing the two males working together to prepare the small party. Kara walked up to Naruto and wrapped him in an embrace. "Thanks for saving me. I don't know how you did, but I am glad you saved me." She reached with her hand to his face, pulling him down, and planted a small kiss on his cheek. "And that was for saving my cousin, my hero." "You're welcome, but you did most of the work. Fighting your cousin is no small feat. For that is courage and strength needed to accomplish of what you did." Naruto shot back, soothingly, running down his finger along her smooth jaw, then placed her hand on her cheek as she leaned in. "When are you explaining all your tricks to Barbara? You know she's dying to know more about you." "Tonight, I want you, Barbara and Clark with me after the barbecue, and when your parents have returned back to their residence, I will try to explain a few things, but it doesn't go well if they know about well you know. The fight," she added helpful, causing him to smile, tightening his embrace on her. He agreed with her, running his arm along her back. "Yes, our little team working, well it was a nice warm-up, right?" Haramak glared at him, lips slightly parted when she slapped the back of his head. "Hey, I did all the hard work, didn't I, Mr. I watched then I jump in." Naruto laughed, lifted her up bridal style, joining the others. One stared at him and Kara, while Barbara smirked, jumped on his back, while Naruto moved back into the mansion for new plates of food. Yes, I did, but you gave Orion the talk. She grumbled, then pouted that caused Naruto to laugh once more, while Barbara grinned like a loon, holding tightly around his neck as the group moved back into the mansion, leaving Clark scratching his head. He's something special, that young man have captured the heart of my niece, if he ever hurt her in some way then. We'll crush him like the feeble bug he is. A cold, cruel whisper echoed silently through Clark's head. Unnoticed by anyone, even himself. Jonathan and Martha Kent soon arrived at the estate and they marveled at the view of the garden when they walked the path that led them through the garden, over the hill and to the pool. Jonathan carried a box with sate sticks, salads and France bread that were imported from overseas. Placing them on an empty table while Martha walked up to Kara, wrapped her in an embrace, planting a kiss on her cheek before releasing her, then moved to Barbara and embraced her as well. When she returned to Jonathan, she then spoke. Kara, Barbara, glad to see you again, I bet your stay here was marvelous. The girls laughed, led the two older people into the mansion where Naruto and Clark were preparing the sate. We've a marvelous day. Naruto lent us some swimming suits for us to use for in the pool, and the whole day we enjoyed the nice weather, with occasionally jumping in the pool. Naruto played beach volley, or we hunted each other. Later in the day, Clark joined us, there were no problems. Martha sends her adopted daughter a smile. She was overjoyed that Kara had a marvelous day and what she had seen last evening of the young man, a well-mannered gentleman. Her eyes turned to her friend, Barbara, whom nodded in agreement. She had her doubts, but she didn't want to ruin a perfect day if it wasn't ruined in some way already. And was that all? Martha said with mischief in her voice. There's not something romantic floating in the air, something that I needs to know, heard Jonathan, preparing an extra seat on our table. Kara stumbled when she heard the implying of her adopted mother or aunt, causing Barbara, John and Martha to laugh. When she found back her balance and had straightened her cloth she then replied with a stutter. What are you implying? The wide feral smile grew on Aunt Martha's face that was mirrored by the other two. Of course it is her job as mother or aunt to embarrass you daughter or niece, and with a sweet tone she replied. Nothing dear, only checking for the upcoming wedding. Ma. Kara shouted indigently, stamping into the house, searching for Naruto that was preparing a tray with refreshments for his guests. She found him in the kitchen, talking to Clark whom laughed about a joke that Naruto made. Kara's fingers wrapped around his and she pulled him out of the kitchen to the garden, ignoring the laughter of the others. Naruto let prepare the barbecue and ignore them. She added when she noticed her crush looking at her family and Barbara. Naruto shook his shoulders and let Kara lead him outside to the side of the pool. Outside she still kept hold of his hand, not that Naruto did mind, he actually enjoyed her slender fingers through his. Hey Naruto, said boy looked at her question eyes. This caused her to continue, gathering her courage. Would you date me? I mean even when I'm not 100% human. Naruto stopped searching for the bag of coals and looked up at her. His eyes were serious. Deep cerulean eyes stared in her sapphire eyes, searching for something, then he smiled, he had found it. Kara, I've known since I met you that you were a very special person, even if you are an alien, that idea doesn't frighten me, believe me. It is I that needs to question you that, as I was a human, now I am more than a mere human. Would you date me if you know that I wasn't human at all? Kara's eyes this time searched staring in his, looking for something, and she did found what she searched for. Yes, I would. It doesn't change of whom you are, as long we stay together. Naruto leaned in, bringing Kara closer to him, half lifting her up, while Kara wrapped her arms around his neck, helping him. Cerulean eyes locked on sapphire eyes as they slowly fluttered close when their faces inched closer and closer. Lips met each other, brushing lightly against each other, working. Their lips slowly parted, giving entrance to their tonsils, inviting them to explore each other's mouths. Every nook and inch, their tongues wrestling until the need of air was a must, but they tried to keep each other locked until they parted with a gasp. Wow, they exclaimed, then attacked each other again, kissing, their arms rubbed each other back, tightening their embrace, until they parted when someone catcalled to them. You taste divine, Kara. I know that I can wake up every morning with you next to me for the rest of my life. That's a promise of a lifetime. I think so too, kiss me, my hero. Kara said sultry, pouting her lips cutely, she brought his face closer, kissed him again, while the catcalls of her best friend cheered them on, and with the occasionally white flash that came from the camera. After what seemed a century for the pair was in reality not longer than 3 minutes, the two new couple released each other's lips, smiling at each other. They started to work on the barbecue, placing coals on the right place. Naruto flashed his hands through hand seals, while Kara's eyes glowed crimson, at the same time they released their gifts. Naruto spewed fire out of his lungs, while Kara shot a beam, both lightened up the coals, bright fire erupted at the combination way of setting the coal on fire. Barbara shook her head in exasperation, filing them in the back of her mind to call for them if she ever wanted give a barbecue party. You did a wonderful job, dear. You've earned a gift, Naruto whispered hotly in her ear, causing her to giggle. She planted her hand on his cheek, looking up in his bright cerulean eyes. And what might that be, my handsome lighter? This he replied, leaning in, planting his lips at the corner of her mouth. Kara wasn't satisfied, and she gripped his head tightly between her hands, planting a kiss on his, lips brushed against each other in a new full makeout session. Barbara waited them to be done with their new makeout session, smiling at them, and when they were done she jumped in. Now that you've your man, can I congratulate you now? Kara nodded, and before she knew it, she was in a tight embrace of her best friend. While they were embracing each other, Martha, Jonathan and Clark arrived at the pool, carrying each a plate that they placed on the tables. Naruto walked over to them, picking up a plate and walked back to the barbecue, placing a few sate sticks on the grill while holding on Kara's waist that didn't go unnoticed by Martha. Martha walked up to them with a bright smile, enveloping them in a tight embrace, congratulating them on being a couple. They talked for a few minutes until Martha's husband joined them, embracing his daughter and giving Naruto a firm handshake while letting him promise to take good care of Kara. When Clark stepped forward, Kara smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She still remembered the Orion incident that he did with Clark's body, and it was too fresh. Of course she did know that it wasn't her cousin's fault, but difficult to explain. Clark offered his hand to Naruto, whom took it with a grateful smile, while his handshake said difference. To Clark's surprise, the handshake grated his bones a bit, showing that he's very strong for a mere human as far Clark known. Kara turned a few sate around while sharing a drink with Naruto and Barbara. The three of them decided to sleep over at his place, and tomorrow Naruto and Kara would bring Barbara back to Gotham. Time flew by and the party dwindled down. Martha had offered to help cleaning, but Naruto didn't want to know about it and sends them back to their house with a few leftovers. Martha wrapped Naruto in an embrace. Thank you, Naruto, for this wonderful cementing of your union with my Kara. Farewell for her. I know she can sometimes be a handful and a bit cocky, but that's puberty. Ma. Kara shouted, embarrassing when her super hearing caught her aunt talking to her, now boyfriend, when she said goodbye to her uncle, whom laughed and letting her promises that she wouldn't do stuff that they didn't do and that they see her tomorrow back at the farm. Jonathan, Martha and Clark left the estate with the car as they had walked to his estate first. Somehow, Martha had found out about Clark's negative behavior and did hold her promise in keeping him grounded. Kara, Barbara and Naruto found that mildly amusingly, the thought of Clark Kent, a young adult, being grounded by his mother. Kara wrapped her arms around his waist, snuggling her face into his chest, while Barbara locked her arm with his arm. How would Lois Lane react at him being grounded for the rest of the month? Kara said with a mischievous smile, digging deeper into her boyfriend, whom laughed, causing a pleasant wave through his body. Once inside, in the living room, Naruto snapped his finger while a clone was out of view doing the hand seals, activating the privacy seal. Now that the privacy has been activated, we don't have to worry about any intruder, satellite spying on us, and certainly a certain dark broody moody ruining the day. Naruto led them to the cough, placing Kara on his lap while Barbara leaned against his side. He still wondered how Barbara could get away with leaning, or better said touching him, but he kept wishful, his lips sealed. Kara turned in her seat, staring with a serious expression at her boyfriend. An evil, sadistic look crossed her angelic face, causing Naruto to shiver while Barbara laughed demonic. Now it is time for interrogation, dear. Batgirl, Gotham. Batman smirked darkly, checking the screens for any clues of satellite communications facility, laughing in his cave, causing the wild bats to fly wild. I wonder who's trying to interrogate a poor chap, but oh well, payback is a bitch. Origin. Satellite communication facility, Metropolis. A shadow darker than the night crossed over the clearing, jumping over a fence, and landed silently on the other side. The intruder glanced over his shoulder to the large board with the imprint. Wayne Tech Metropolis Substation. Narrowing his eyes, the intruder moved silently through the night, cape billowing behind him while he moved towards the facility. The person could not help but feel something calamitous would happen. Hands appeared at the edge of the roof, and soon the person appeared on the roof, and silently he moved to one of the bars. His fingers grasped the bars, straining his muscles he pulled the bars out of the roof and then moved through the entrance that he had made. Landing silently on a girder, he crouched down to see what happens in the control center. Remember Barbeck at my place, Saturday night? A young scientist said to his colleagues while he moved away from his desk and to the exit. You're all invited. Venus is rising early and you know what that means. I am there, sound great. One of the scientists replied. This scientist is an elderly plum man with a bald head and a mustache. One row lower a giggle could be heard. This comes from a young plum woman that have a dark tainted skin, black hair. I see you then. The young scientist smiled when he arrived at the door, placing his hand on the door, he glanced back at his colleagues and chuckled. You guys are animals, TSK. He made a fancy move with his fingers, then pushed against the door and stepped through. Leaving the three scientists behind that stared at the spot that he vacated before glancing at each other, nodding at each, and then they spoke. The intruder on the girder took in the whole scene and his eyes narrowed when they silently agreed on something. Feeling that soon something would happen and not for the best, he waited. Just to prove his suspicion, they started to speak to each other in an unknown language, then they moved away from their desks. A third scientist, a skinny man, moved to one of the large lab closet, placing his hands on each side. He lifted the closet from the floor, earning some surprised look from the one that keep an eye on them. The scientist placed the closet away, revealing a bare wall as the second scientist, the young, dark-tainted woman, places her hand on the wall and crumbled the wall with her bare hand. As the wall crumbled, creating a hole, it reveals an unknown alien object that she picked up. They spoke once again in the same unknown language and then moved towards the elevator that led them towards the roof. Ding. The elevator doors slid open and the three scientists stepped out, each staring at the large receiver that's been built on the roof of the satellite communication facility. As one, they saunter towards their goal of destination in silence. Reaching the top, the young woman placed the alien object at the center of the machine and waited. The three scientists don't have to wait long as the alien object started to seep through the openings when suddenly a bat lasso hit the two male scientists, successful capturing them. I doubt that modification is legal. A gruff voice informed them, and a moment later the Dark Knight jumped in view, slamming the two captured scientists to the metal constructor before he halted before the woman. You should kept stuck to your desk jobs. The scientist stared stoic at him before the plump woman jumped towards him, her legs outstretched, and to his surprise, there was some strength behind her leg. Batman flew high over the two scientists whom followed him with their eyes, and he landed silently on his feet. The Dark Crusader's eyes narrowed at them when suddenly their bodies stretched out and their bindings slid off before returning to normal. His eyes widened in surprise. What? The Dark Crusader murmured and steeled himself for a kick, targeting his midsection that he deflected successfully and immediately placed a counter to her solar plexus. The young woman stumbled back, her hand under her chest before she jumped back and blocking the view of the thin-looking scientist whom rushed at him that pushed him off the edge with surprising strength. Falling down, his hand reached to his utility belt and grasped his bat grapple. Aiming his bat grapple, he pulled the trigger and a magnet shot out that connected with the metal grid, and with the momentum he swept back up the grid and landed in a crouched position, and then immediately he jumped back into the air and roundhouse kicked the charging woman back to her henchman. Need a hand? A voice came up behind him. The Dark Crusader glanced for a moment over his shoulder, noticing the local superhero, Superman in his red-blue costume and with his cape billowing behind him. Thanks, but I can handle this, was the gruff response of the Dark Knight before focusing back on the important matters before him. Superman rolled his eyes. They don't look so thought. He spoke with a cocky grin when he heard an unknown language and the scientists turned around and fled the grid. Batman sprinted in pursuit after them and followed by the Man of Steel whom flew above him. Superman flew past the Dark Crusader when suddenly images floated through his head that wasn't his own, delivering him a painful headache. His hands reached up to grasp his head while his body froze and he stumbled towards the grid. Batman, whom was in hot pursuit of them, halted when he heard a loud thud behind him and whirled around to see Superman knocked out. He glanced for a few seconds on the still form of Superman before turning back to the scientists when he noticed the plum man holding a kind of detonation device in hand. His eyes widened, whirling around and sprinting to Superman, lifting him up on his shoulder before he ran off the grid. Yellow energy sources gathered around the top when it suddenly exploded. Batman jumped off the building, his bat grapple connected with the top letting him move away from the danger with Superman on his shoulder. Boom! An explosion behind them blasts them through the air. Releasing the Man of Steel from his grip, the Dark Knight somersaulted through the air and skidded through the Earth's surface to a halt, while Superman skidded to a halt next to him unconscious. Shaking his head to remove the cobweb from his mind, he lifted his head to see three silhouettes at the feet of the former satellite communications facility. Grotesque figures are what he could make out from his position. The woman's frame was bending and unnatural, her arm was bent all wrong, the opposite position of it natural is, and her head was turned backwards. The skinny scientist had the arm from the plump scientist through his chest, while his back was bent backward and the last scientist was buried into the Earth's surface. The terrorists attack? No, maybe not. It's best to wake up the big guy. The Dark Knight thought while shaking him when he noticed from out of the corner that the scientists moved out of the crater. The plump scientist pulled out his arm out of the skinny scientist while he bends his back straight, as did the woman. Impossible. They are not human, I need to keep an eye on them. He crawled back to his feet for a hot pursuit when the groans of Man of Steel halted him. The Bat decided to stay with Superman and find out what had happened to him. In a gruff voice he spoke to the man lying at his feet. What happened? I don't know. Something entered my head and showed me images. They were so intense. The Man of Steel replied while rubbing his head. Batman glanced back to the edge of the forest, noticing that they were gone. He sighed. "You're alright." Earning a nod. Superman crossed his arms. "What is this all about?" "Over the past few months, I detected several securities breaches in our global deep space monitoring network." Earning a raised brow from Superman. "And no one claims responsibility?" "No, there's more than this than meet the eyes. I want gladly to look more into this, but I am expected to be back in Metropolis." "Another key to the city." Superman hand reached to his belt and fished a watch that he handed over to the Dark Knight. Batman raised an eyebrow but took the watch. "This is a watch call. If you need any help, call me." Batman glanced at the watch and then back at Superman, who already took flight back to Metropolis. "Right." He pockets the watch in his utility belt and sighed deeply. "Another satellite communication facility of my company is blown up. Smallville, Kansas. Now it is time for interrogation, dear." Naruto shivered at the prospect of being handled by his new girlfriend. Out of mirth or anxiety, none known. Kara sits in Naruto's lap, cradling him while she trailed a finger down his cheek that made him shiver with more. "And how do you expect me to lose my tongue?" The blonde male laughed, wrapping his arm around her waist and then kissed softly her nose. Kara giggled that sounded like chimes to his ears, but then a mischievous smile formed. Her lips curled slightly up while her hands reached around his waist and then tickled. Naruto's eyes widened drastic. His stomach muscle constricted when her fingers played around his waist and laughter escaped his lips. Tears gathered at the corner of his eyes when he could not stop laughing. "Like this, Naruto." Ahahaha. Naruto writhed under Kara's form, trying to escape her fingers. When she noticed that he was sensitive there, the girl of steel increased her attack. "Do you have enough?" And never give up." She stopped for a moment. Naruto breathed in a new bout of fresh air when she spoke that caused shivers down his spine. "Very well, prepare yourself for the tickles of doom." The poor victim gulped audible while Kara's eyes shone with mirth, her smile turned wicked. A shadow loomed over Naruto's frail form that wanted nothing more than tickle him to next week. Barb, help." Barbara, whom sits next to him, placed her index finger under her chin, taking a thinking pose. The girl closed her eyes while she hummed a tune and then her lips mirrored the wicked smile of her friend. "Okay, I'll help. But not the way you thought." Her eyelashes fluttered open, revealing eyes that shone with mirth, and before Naruto mind could comprehend his situation, he was attacked. A new pair of hands roamed his waist, attacking his sensitive spots. Laughter filled the room as he flayed his legs. Naruto laid now fully on the cough and buried under the two girls. Kara sits atop his chest while Barbara took place on his legs, both tickling his sides. After a long moment that felt like an eternity to the victim and just a few seconds for the assaulters, Naruto spoke or tried, at least between a fit of laughter. I give." The girls paused for a moment, then shrugged their shoulders and continued assaulting him. "Did he say something, Kara?" "No, you probably imagined his poor way of speech." Kara looked over her shoulders to her boyfriend, whom turned red, probably lack of air. She smirked mischievous while she increased the tempo of tickling him. Any moment now, any moment, and this poor boy give in. As one clue, Naruto gave in. I give. I talk. Please. I talk." If Naruto thought that they would stop immediately, then he was wrong, very wrong. They kept tickling him for a long full 5 minutes before they released him from the tickles of doom. Breathing deeply, bringing oxygen into his depleted lungs before he relaxed his body. "I've heard you wanted to talk." Kara sweetly spoke, raising her fingers that she wiggled close to his waist in a treating manner. Naruto nodded profoundly, sweat poured down his face in fear for such a cruel torture. Yes. Yes, I talk." Kara and Barbara's wicked smile vanished, turning into a pout while they stared at each other and then to Naruto before they curled off him so he could sit. When he sat comfortable and the girls taking seats at his sides, Kara snuggling against him and Barbara leaning her head on his shoulder, he wrapped his arms around their forms, smiled down at them. Planting a kiss on Kara's head, he spoke in a calm, serious manner. "Alright girls, shoot." Kara smiled wickedly, she was glad that she could start her interrogation. "Okay Naruto, for starters, what did you do when you fought my cousin, and what is it?" Naruto nodded. "A good question. What I did was what my people called a jutsu, or technique in common language. Our jutsu is molding our powers to form something or certain things. For instance, the jutsu that I used in the battle against your cousin is a cloning multiple technique from the original, me. My clones copied everything what I know and can do, as you can see that they used a Henjer transformation technique to confuse the enemy by taking your forms." The girls took a moment to compress that explanation. Barbara sits there next to him with a serious look, hand under her chin while she thought. After a moment of giving her mind compress everything and filtering something what she thought was important, Barbara took the word. "Naruto, you said your people, right?" If I can understand is that your people can use what you just did and are the change of your eyes a part of these abilities that your people can perform? Naruto nodded, giving her a smile. Yes, my people are shinobi what we called ourselves could use these abilities, but there are clans that could use certain abilities that made them special. My village had 2 clans that were specialized in 2 Dojutsu Kekkei Kengai. The Uchiha clan specialized in use of the Sharingan whom could activate their eyes, turning them crimson red with 3 Tomo, and their eyes had 2 abilities, one they called the Eye of Insight and the other they called the Eye of Hypnotism. The other clan is the Hyuga clan that has pale white eyes, and once their eyes once activated is called the Byakugan or all-seeing white eyes. Those 2 eyes are 2 of the Sandai Jutsu or the 3 great eye techniques, and what you just saw Barbara was my use of the Byakugan. The all-seeing wide eyes, does that mean that Kara said, not finishing her sentence when she saw Naruto pale a bit when he saw her connecting the dots. Hey cerulean eyes widened, her eyebrows scrunched close while her lips tinned. And when she spoke, her voice was deception sweet. Naruto, did you just check us out when I fought my cousin? No, of course not. I wouldn't dare. Shouted the blonde-haired shinobi, his hand rose up, waving in front of him while he tried to sink in the couch. Kara's eyes narrowed. An evil gleam lighted up in her eyes that made Naruto sweat a few cups. Am I that repulsive, Naruto? What? No. You're not at all repulsive. On the contrary, you're the most beautiful woman that I've ever met. Your waist-long blonde hair shines as bright as the sun, your skin is as soft as silk, and your eyes, here Naruto locked his own cerulean eyes with her, clasping his hands with hers. Your eyes radiance a light that rivals a gem from the highest degree. With each word, Kara's face turned crimson that deepened while her heart hammered in her chest. Her eyes turned a bit moist while she listened to him as her hands grasped his tighter. Thank you, that was very beautiful. Only for you, my beautiful Kryptonian princess. He smiled, pecked her lips softly while pulling her on his lap. Kara closed her eyes, placing her head in the crook of his neck, curling up her legs, while he wrapped his arms around her frame. Kara, when my Byakugan is activated, there is one hint, and that is. Naruto locked once again his eyes with Kara. His cerulean eyes changed, his pupils slowly vanished, and his eyes turned white with a little bit purple, and veins popped slightly near his eyes. When activating the ability of my Byakugan, you can see the slight veins near my eyes, that's the sign that I use the all-seeing eye, so don't worry if my eyes are turning into the Byakugan, okay? Okay, but if I caught you checking with those eyes on me or us then you will pay, Naruto. She warned him while poking his nose with her finger that caused him to laugh. My next question, when I fell you suddenly caught me, how did you do that? That was due my use of my shadow clones and Kawarimi jutsus. My shadow clones are exactly my clones, they can do the same thing what I can do, and I switched your place with that of my clone and caught you. I then used my clones to fight your cousin by using your forms to confuse him with my transformation or henge jutsu, and the rest you already known. Thank you, Kara lifted up her head, pecked his lips that brought a smile on his face while he stroked her cheek. She then leaned back while a satisfying smile adorned her face. The two stayed for a moment quiet, enjoying the moment while Barbara had sunk deep in thought about something that he said before. Barbara had scrunched her brows together. Her eyes looked far away but with a mysterious shine. Her legs were crossed while she ticked her fingers against the couch. The auburn-haired girl decided to pull the two out of their daydream and back to the conversation. Naruto, you said that you might have known what caused Superman's behavior, care to explain or do I ruin your moment? Kara and Naruto woke up out of their daydream. Naruto took a serious thinking face while he thought about what he had discovered while reading the book and how dangerous that crystal actual is. He glanced with his still wide eyes at his girlfriend, staring at her for a moment and came to a conclusion. Yes, I might have found cause for his strange behavior. Naruto's hand did go to his pockets and pulled out a necklace with a crimson crystal and placed it on the table. Kara's eyes widened when her eyes fell on the small crystal and she tried to move far away from the necklace while Barbara watched her confused. The auburn girl decided to speak her mind. Kara, calm down, it is just a red crystal. She didn't get far when Kara cut her off. Calm down. I am not calming down as long as that thing is close by. Get that away, far away from me, now. Naruto placed a scroll next to the necklace, rolled the scroll open and placed the necklace on the scroll before pushing chakra in the scroll, and the necklace vanished while text in an unknown language slowly shimmered in existence on the scroll. It is done, Kara. Please calm down, the necklace is gone or more, the red kryptonite is gone. Sealed here in the scroll. Kara's whole form shivered while her eyes are now locked on the scroll, but it was Barbara that spoke. What did you do? And what is red kryptonite and what does that do? Naruto waited a few moments to answer the questions as he is trying to calm down his girlfriend that slowly calmed down and the shivers stopped. When Kara nodded, saying that she had calmed down, he started explaining. This scroll is what my people called a sealing scroll. We can seal our weapons, tents and other objects into this scroll as I did with the necklace. But I have stepped up the seal, and now all the information about the necklace or more about the red kryptonite come in my native language on the scroll. As far as I know, that red kryptonite is the cause for Superman to behave out of character, meaning he becomes arrogant, mean and everything he tried to lock away. But I think when he was captured by Darkseid, he was subjected to torture and brainwashing, while red kryptonite was used to speed the process, and now while red kryptonite is close by or more skin contact, that his other personality comes up and take over his body. No, whimpered Kara in shock. Isn't anything what we can do against that change of personality, or maybe we can let Batman and you search for them and destroy the red kryptonite? There's nothing for now that we can do against the change of personality, the only thing what we can do is warn him of the danger, and I will consult Batman as he have more knowledge about this earth. I will in the meantime search for a solution and study this red kryptonite, told Naruto the blonde Kryptonian in his lap. His mind already working on how he would solve this, as it is not only dangerous for Superman and the people of Earth, but also dangerous for his girlfriend, and he don't want some psychotic enemy get his hands on that crystal. Thank you. I hope that there is not more of those horrible crystals on Earth. Naruto and Kara nodded in agreement, hoping for the best. I think we have enough spoken today, let's watch some TV. Barbara commented while she picked up the TV remote and activated the TV and started to zap through the canals until she stopped at one and they made their position on the couch more comfortable. A few months later, World Assembly Building. Weapons of mass destruction. My people believes in lasting peace can only achieve by eliminating them. An elderly man voiced his opinion about the mass disarm plan. Nonsense, those weapons are our only defense against aggression. A tall, broad man with dark skin voiced his opinion about the ridiculous plan. This man wears a green military uniform and glared at the man that was for the mass disarm plan. Is this your official position? No. General Wells does not speak for our government. A young man replied that entered the conference room and stepped up the podium. This man wears an Armani suite, his light brown hair is neatly combed and his black eyes stared at the gathered world leaders and ambassadors. General, when I was an astronaut on Mars, I suffice an experience that profoundly changed my life. Looking at Earth from that distance, I saw how small and fragile our planet is, its fate is in our hands. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a responsibility that we must not take lightly, therefore I propose a whole new solution for peace, a force that is dedicated for the good of all mankind, a force known to all as Superman. Senator Carter's hand made a gesture, a sign for those that guarded the door. Two guardsmen pulled open the door and a large shadow glided over the floor. The gathered people turned their heads to see the most famous superhero entering the conference room. There he stands, Superman in his blue-red costume, his red cape billowed behind him when he descended the stairs while smiling at a few people. Once he had arrived where Senator Carter awaited him, he grasped the man's hand in a firm handshake, shaking it. "Welcome, Superman." Before Superman could respond, General Wells spoke through the quiet room. "For all due respect, Senator, we can't entrust the whole security of the world to one man. I understand your feelings, General, and when Senator Carter first approached me I was reluctant to get involved. But after meeting him and his advisors, I became convinced that I could make a difference. I fought hard over the years to earn your trust, and I solemnly swear to all of you that I would continue to uphold the ideas of truth and justice. Not just for America but for all the world." Applause slowly started when he finished his speech, and people started to stand up to take a better look at their hero, except General Wells. Senator Carter approached Superman, taking his hand in a grasp, shaking it in front of the cameras, both men smiling at the first steps towards peace. "Good evening. This is Snapper Carr reporting. It has been 6 months since Senator J. Allen Carter's dramatic disarming plan was ratified. While Superman has been working around the clock disarming hundreds of deadly warheads." In the living room of the Kent's farm, Carr lay long out on the couch, her head resting on her boyfriend's lap while she watched the news on TV. Her eyes fluttered for a moment, closed when he caressed her scalp while a smile worked up her face. "What's on your mind, dear?" I think it is foolish to entrust such a responsibility to one man. He's Superman, strongest man on Earth, the man of steel, but still one man. What will happen when the pressure become too much for him alone, or when something like Darkseid happens again? Naruto. Don't talk about him. I don't need to constant be remembered about what happened. Kara reprimanded the blonde that looked for moments shocked before apologizing, and they turned their attention back to the TV. Yet still some stay skeptical. Reporter Carr said before the camera switched to Central City local hero, The Flash. "Hey, the big man have his heart on the right place, but give me a break. I am the fastest man alive." Suddenly the Flash vanished in a burst of speed, ended up behind reporter Carr that had a shocked expression when the Flash ticked him from behind on his shoulder, turning around and noticed he wasn't there before the superhero stands already in front of him. "And I can't be in 5 places at once. Still, with more missiles being dismantled every day, most of us will sleep better knowing that Superman will watch over us. This was reporter Kara of the Metropolis news station. He is right, you know, the Flash, stated Naruto, reaching out to the remoter and pushed the off button before placing it back and returned caressing Kara's scalp. Your cousin might have his heart on the right place and the strength to protect our world, but the world is large and he is still one man. I think he scrapped too much than what he can chew, and if he wants something like that then he needs to recruit people to help him. People that have the same drive as him to defend the innocents. A group of superheroes. Something like that, dear. Naruto lifted Kara up in his arms before he stood up and carried her to the kitchen, where Martha watched them with a bright smile and a table full with food. Meanwhile in an abandoned Starlab. Soft sounds of feet landed on the dusty floor of an abandoned Starlab. The Dark Knight moved silently towards a desk, glancing down when he noticed a familiar object, a detonator. It was the same detonator that was used to blow up the satellite communication facility in Metropolis. Tracing his fingers along the object to inspect when suddenly a croak sounds of a door being swept open that soon was followed by the same alien language. Turning his head, the Dark Knight glided through the shadows to the edge, hiding behind iron pipes, and was certainly that he was on the right lead when he glanced at the two scientists that were present at the facility. The two scientists stepped out of an office and the woman closed the door before they left. The door swept open, Batman raised his hand holding a flashlight that moved through the room. The light glided over the wall, cases and a bureau when it suddenly landed on black roots. Slowly the light rose up along the object as Batman's eyes followed until it landed on crimson cocoon that held the same scientists. Chink. A batarang appeared in his hand and then reaching the cocoon he cut it open. The scientist that was held in the cocoon fell out, narrowly caught by the Dark Knight. He started to check for a pulse. Roar. Groar. Batman's flashlight immediately moved towards the source of the sounds. There in the light stands a tall dog with a row of very sharp teeth. Batman's eyes widened when it jumped at him, knocking him over. Groar. Clasp. Groar. Holding him off with his hands, the Dark Knight moved his legs and kicked the dog off him and pushed himself off the floor, landing on his feet. Preparing himself, he waited for the dog to climb back to his feet that had landed a feet away. Immediately the dog charged him. Dark Knight waited until the dog was close when he suddenly jumped in the air and grasped the pipe that hung above him and moved out of harm. Crouching on the pipes, he looked down when his eyes parted in shock when the dog stalked up the walls and morphed in a white-gray slimy creature. The creature jumped him, pushing him off the pipes, and then smashed him through a wall, where he landed against a bookshelf that fell on the Batman. Beep. 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 Clark Kent's ears caught the alarm watch that he had given the Dark Knight. Without a second thought, he moved out, flying through Metropolis towards the source of the sound. Slamming open the door of the abandoned Starlab, he entered the building and made his way through the debris. Once he arrived in the room where the signal was on its strongest, Superman noticed the fallen bookshelf and a cold grip caught his heart. No. He bended through his knees, his hands grasped the edge of the shelf and lifted the whole thing up. Superman's eyes caught the unconscious form of the Dark Knight. Batman. Placing the detective securely in his arms and turned around to see a meteor descend out of the sky that moved through the air. Citizens stared and their eyes followed the path of the large object until it slammed into the city, causing an enormous crater. Superman with the Dark Knight in his arms took off and followed the meteor to its destination and watched the people of his city exiting their cars and buildings, all to see the meteor. Fire trucks raced through the streets with sirens loudly and halted in front of the large object. Fire workers pulled out the fire hose to pull out the fire. After a few moments the meteor was blushed and everyone stared at the large object in wonder. Superman's eyes caught an ambulance and with billowing cape he descended to the ambulance, calling. Medic. He needs help. What happened? The medic asked. Noticing the local superhero with Batman in his arms. A stretcher appeared and the Man of Steel placed the Dark Knight on the stretcher. I'm not sure. Superman glanced once at his friend before taking off into the air, leaving the Batman with the medic. The medic's hand moved towards his neck to check for any pulse. When she doesn't feel one, her hand moved to the top of his mask with the intention to pull it off. Her hands were inches away when suddenly a hand shot up grasping hers while a gasp escaped her lips. Don't even think about it. A news reporter car arrived and reporter Carr stepped out and placed his men around the meteor for a good close-up. His eyes shined with enthusiasm about this special event. Crack crack. Lines appeared on certain places of the meteor and a moment later they crumbled as a long pale, sharp leg came out that almost pierced a pair of soldiers. And that would have happened if Superman didn't sweep them off their feet and took them with him in the air. Once in the air, Superman must dodge three similar legs as they came out of the meteor, as a massive alien vehicle stands tall on his three legs and a large oval head with one crimson eye that focused, and a moment later a crimson beam erupted out from the alien vehicle that hit a police car that exploded. Reporter car, his team and people immediately dived out of the way when the police car flew in the air and landed on the spot where they stood a moment ago. High above the heads of civilians, Superman flew towards the strange vehicle and was hit when the cannon focused again, hitting him and sending him into the street, creating a crater. Civilians gathered around the crater, staring at their hero. Is he okay? Is he alive? More sirens could be heard as police cars entered the scene, surrounding the alien vehicle, and policemen stepped out, pointing their gun at the large object. Fire. Pang. Pang. Bullets cut through the air, hitting the object, but no damage was made. The medics that is in care of the Batman watched how their own policemen couldn't stop the treat and missed how the Dark Knight pulled out his bat grapple and shot. A moment later he was gone, safely sitting in his Batwing before he took off, leaving a confused medics behind as he made his way towards the alien vehicle and his bat missiles sharp, target in sight, fire. 2 missiles dislodged from the Batwing and surged to the alien vehicle, hitting it square in the center, causing it to waver. Superman floated back into the air, cape billowing behind him when he watched the missiles surging towards the alien vehicle. He, the Man of Steel, flew through the air, circling the laser beams that targeted him, avoiding them while he pulled back his arm and made a fist when he came in close range. Bam. A shockwave erupted at contact and the alien vehicle lost its balance and crashed into the bridge. Immediately Superman landed on the thing and grasped the eyelid cannon, trying to break it open. Not noticing the focus of the cannon, he was hit with a new beam that knocked him off and he landed into a building, crushing it in the process. "What's that thing made of?" groaned the Man of Steel. He pulled himself back to his feet, narrowing his eyes to search for any weak spot on that thing, when suddenly his mind was intruded, a sharping pain surged through his mind and images flashed through his head while he sunk to his knees. Roaya. Superman. Reporter Carr voiced out his worry for the superhero, running up to him with his team of reporters. When he arrived next to Superman, Superman straightened himself, blank look and eyes staring into the distance. Carr snapped his fingers in front of his face. Superman. Suddenly the wind picked up, making his cape billowing some more before he took off into the air. Reporter Carr stared after Superman. Wicked. But where does he go? Superman flew past Batwing and through the street, leaving the heart of Metropolis and their citizens in confusing. The Dark Knight watched the local superhero before he pulled up and followed him, while Reporter Carr turned to the camera and brought his mice to his lips and spoke. Penn Farm, Smallville. After hours of intense battles. The heart of the city lies in ruins. As the devastation continues, the question on everyone's lips is, where is Superman? Meanwhile, we are getting reports of that similar objects had landed all around the world. In Paris, Cairo, Malaysia. And more arriving by the hours. Martha Kent's eyes widened, tears streaming down when she watched the start of the invasion of Earth, while the citizens of the named cities took refuge in buildings. The heart of Metropolis lay now in ruins and debris. Her hand moved to cover her lips while she whimpered. Oh God. Those poor people, what's Clark doing in God's name? I don't know what he is doing, Martha, but I hope he have a damn good reason to let them alone in their time of need. An irate Jonathan said, wrapping his arms around the shivering form of his wife. Not far away from them, Kara and Naruto watched the pair from out of the kitchen. Kara turned around, climbed the stairs to her rooms without saying a word, while Naruto brought his hand to a single tiger seal. "Nihin Shohin no Jutsu," whispered Naruto. The blonde watched Reporter Carr deliver the news and complimented him on his bravery, while white feathers floated as Martha and Jonathan's eyes turned heavy, and soon they slept, holding each other in a tight embrace. A few moments later, Naruto's eyes caught the sounds of footsteps that came from the stairs. Turning his head, his eyes caught the beauty that descended the stairs. There stands Kara in all her beauty, wearing a dark blue tank top with long sleeves that are trimmed with red. On her chest she wears the crest of the House of L. His eyes traveled further south across her flat-toned stomach, curving hips, dark blue skirt, and down her long smooth legs that ended in knee lengths, crimson leather boots. Around her shoulder, she wears her crimson cape, and when she walked, wiggling her hips until she was close to him and grasped his face tenderly in her hands and brought it close to her, pulling him slightly down while she floated up, planting a kiss on his soft lips. "Hi handsome, thanks for the appreciating look," Supergirl said huskily, while she enjoyed his eyes roaming her body and the taste of his lips. "You look beautiful," Naruto said. Smiling brightly at her, showing his white teeth that caused her heart to float in her chest. "Most beautiful woman in the 100s galaxies, my love. Aren't you a charmer?" she said, patting his chest. "I need to go, saving the world, you know." "I know," Naruto said while wrapping his arm around her waist, keeping her close. "And that's why I'll come with you." "What?" "Naruto, no. I know you have powers and that you are strong, but I don't want to lose you, and you don't even have a superhero identity or costume." A soft laughter escaped Naruto's lips and stole a chaste kiss from her before he stepped back. I might not yet been a superhero, but I am not going to run around in underwear and tight clothes like those other male superheroes, as the Batman and Superman, see and be amazed. Kara watched her boyfriend, Naruto, change in front of her eyes. His appearance started to change as his blonde spiky blonde hair slowly grew an inch longer, his skin turned moon or snow white as did his eyes when his pupils slowly vanished. A wind erupted and his clothes billowed when they changed in full-bodied black garments with black pants, gloves, and boots, over which he wears a flowing white robe with 6 magatama across his chest. A silver hapuri shimmered in existence that hid his third eye, and behind him, floating in a halo-like formation were 5 black orbs, the truth-seeking balls. Kara was quite stunned at the new appearance of her boyfriend. He looked completely different, but it didn't repulse her, quite the opposite. She liked this form of her boyfriend more as the blush on her face was any indicating. Slowly she stepped closer to Naruto. Her hand moved up to trace his jawline before they entangled into his hair and ups his rabbit's ear. They are cute, your ears. Those aren't my ears, dear. They are my horns. Naruto deadpanned, but smiled while she traced them as his arms wrapped around her. I see that you approve of my new look. Yes, agreed Supergirl while keep stroking his horns. We need a name for you, and I am a bit jealous that you can change form. Shinju, that's my name. He said, planting a kiss on her nose, then traced down. Not now, Naruto. We need to safe and introduce you to the world. You're right, hold tight, Kamui. Naruto wrapped his arms around her waist before they vanished in a whirl through a portal. Uam. Sounds of explosions echoed through the streets in the heart of Metropolis that was now nothing more than ruins. Its citizens abandoned their cars, houses and streets when the walkers appeared one by one out of the meteors. Windows, shops were burst, cries and screams were heard as reporter Carr glanced out of the window of the Daily Planet. He and his team had searched refuge with some citizens in the now destroyed building of the Daily Planet, each thinking why Superman had abandoned them. This is Reporter Carr, and the heart of Metropolis lies in ruins. Reporter Carr said from out of the Daily Planet. We've all gathered here at the Daily Planet, waiting for Superman, but he was interrupted when a bright crimson light surged through the air, towards them where they took refuge. His eyes widened while people in the background started to cry out. This was Reporter Carr, and it was my honor to deliver you the news. Guccius. Rashomon. Reporter Carr heard the cry, and a shadow grew over them when a gate grew out of the ground with a hideous demon face taking the brunt. Atop of the gate 2 figures appeared out of nowhere, one of them wears a blue-red suite with her cape billowing behind her, while the other has robes billowed in the wind. Unbelievable. Supergirl and an unknown hero appeared in the nick of time, saving our life. Carr reported in relief while delivering the news. Reporter Carr, keep reporting out of Metropolis and this new duo. Oh my, the gate disappeared, and what does he now? Shinju's hand moved to his pocket and pulled out a shuriken before releasing, and immediately his hands moved through the necessary seals. Shuriken explosions. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Futen. Tatapa. Supergirl flew high in the sky and was surprised by what Shinju did, creating from 1,000 shurikens that got caught up in the sudden gust of wind that sped up their speed and exploded at contact, creating smog. She immediately dived down, her eyes glowed a eerily crimson light that surged out of her eyes that hit one of the legs that already were damaged and that now exploded, causing the thing to fall. Wow. He immediately found the weakness of this thing and knew how to take it down. Unbelievable, the Supergirl and alien duo took down that monster in one hit. Even Superman couldn't do that. Reporter Carr said towards the cameras while the camera now zoomed at Shinju that multiplied in copies of himself that vanished in building and came moments later out with citizens that were wounded that he brought to the Daily Planet. Supergirl, my clones will search for survivors and heal them while we hunt down those walkers. Shinju said while he floated up next to Supergirl, whom held a building that threatened to crumble down on citizens that Shinju removed with his shadow clones. Just hurry up, she shouted while she slowly descended as she held the building. Shinju joined her, and soon they held the building as his clones moved the citizens out. A few moments later it was clear under them and they let the building go. Thanks, Shinju, for saving the citizens, now let us kick some aliens. It was not the ARG. Shinju started when suddenly he clutched his head, screams boiled out of his throat as he fell down to the ground, and if it weren't for Supergirl to catch him, he would have caused a crater. Shinju. Shinju, are you alright, what happened? Shouted Kara hysteric as she descended back to the ground and placed him back on his feet. She supported his frame while he slowly turned back to his normal self. We need to go, Supergirl. Someone made contact with me and he needs our help. Shinju said to Girl of Steel that listened to him. We can't leave them here alone. It would be the same thing what Superman did. Supergirl retorted, but she could feel that he had some kind of plan. I know, and that's why I leave clones behind, some as me and one as you to keep your reputation up. The sage said with a smirk that soon was mirrored by Supergirl. But this source have maybe the information that we needs to survive this ordeal, so let's go. Shinju created clones and one transformed into Supergirl as Supergirl and Shinju vanished through Kamui. Beach, Themyscira. Easy girl, easy, a soft caring voice spoke to her horse. The young woman wears a traditional Greece clothes while she watched the sky. Her mother glanced at her from her own horse, feeling the turmoil in her daughter. These omens doesn't bode well, mother. Mankind might face its darkest hours. Her mother, a young woman with long blonde hair that she wears in a pony, watched her daughter intently while she knew which decision her daughter would make. Maybe they have to face it alone. How could you say that, mother? The young dark-haired woman's face fell, a sad marred expression made up her face. Whatever happens behind these shores is not our concern, the blonde woman turned her horse to return to the capital. Here the gods will protect us. I hope you're right, mother. But the eldest god that had slept in slumber had just been awoken and he did join the fight. The blonde woman thought while she planned to lessen the guards around the sacred tools Hera. Hold it, Superman. Destroying government property isn't your style. What's going on? The gruff voice of the Dark Knight came out of the shadows as he stepped into the light. Look for yourself, the Man of Steel crouched down, his hand worked under the iron door and lifted it up and threw it away before he entered that were filled with computers that gathered data about a kind of species. Batman noticed an alien-shaped skull as he walked through the room. Superman meanwhile arrived at the second door, slammed his fist against it before pushing the titanium door aside. The Dark Knight stepped through the entrance, noticing more computers that gathered data about an alien species when his eyes fell on said alien species. The alien was tall, green-tinted skin, and his arms and legs are held in metal blocks. What is it? Mankind's only hope, replied the Man of Steel, stepping up to a control panel and freeing the alien before he explained the paranoid hero. He's been trying to reach out telepathically to me, but the static field interfered. When the message finally got through, I came to rescue him. What's he doing here? Superman caught the alien and helped him up back to his feet. The invasion, echoed a voice through their heads. Batman raised a shocked brow. I came to warn you, but I was captured and imprisoned here. They wouldn't listen. Big surprise. Scoffed the Dark Knight, his not trusted nature roared his head when he glanced at the alien. I sense you doesn't trust me. Maybe this will help. The alien's form changed to more human-like, blue cape, pants and boots appeared on his body and two belts crossed his chest. He stepped up to Batman with his hand in the gesture of peace. I am John Jones. Batman glared at the offered hand until Superman interrupted. Don't take it personally, John. He doesn't trust anyone. The wise policy. Once the group reached outside the building, flashlight captured them. Hold right there, Superman. You're trespassing in a restricted area. Our orders are to keep that freak here. The group of soldiers had them surrounded, their weapons trained on them. Superman immediately stepped in front of John, arms spread. Wait, I'll vouch for him. You must let him go. Don't think so, the rough soldier said. But the world's security may be at stake. That's why he'll never leave her alive. The soldier replied coldly, his form started to change. He and his soldiers turned longer, turned white with black stripes and red dots, laughter echoed through the base as they marched up at the group of heroes. What if Naruto x Supergirl x Batgirl Justice League end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.